An entitled Karen kept trying to cut in line at the deli aisle as she demanded to go first to buy her precious potato wedges. So I decided to get some revenge by literally buying all of them, denying this entitled Karen the one thing she definitely wanted, causing her to freak out in a very satisfying manner. Here's how I did it. Several years ago, I was waiting in the grocery deli line to pick up some potato wedges for my wife, and this really wasn't that long of a line. I was maybe the fourth or fifth person in line and definitely the last person in it. Well, up walks the entitled Karen of this story and what I presumed to be her daughter or her granddaughter. Anyways, this Karen literally is trying to jump the line each time a person was served, and the patient deli worker kept telling her she needed to wait her turn, with this Karen getting more and more frustrated that she could not just do what she wanted. The guy before me goes, and I hear her telling her daughter or her granddaughter, "Oh, this is so ridiculous. I just want some potato wedges." And obviously, because this is the petty revenge section of this website, we know exactly what I plan to do upon hearing this. Finally, we get to my turn, and she tries to jump again. Only this time, I pipe up and I let her know the end of the line is behind me. Well, she did not like that at all. She then yelled at me and said, "This is such crap. It is first come, first serve." But the worker and I just stared at her until she walks back to her irritation area off to the side, and it's here that I see there's only a few potato wedges available. So I tell the worker that I'll need more than what's available. And so I waited for about 10 minutes for it all to get processed. Well, knowing what the lady wants and that it's not there, I say she can go ahead and jump up and he can help her out. They go through the same process, which irritates her further, but she says something like, "Fine, might as well wait at this point," and just steps aside in a huff. Well, new wedges are brought out, and I see her start to move like she's going to jump in front of me, but I remind her I'm next in order. The deli guy asks how much I wanted, usually in pounds, and it's here that I quietly say to him I want all the wedges. He asked me to clarify and he's like, "Do you want all of them?" And I just look at him and I say, "Yes, I want all of them." He then cracks a bit of a smile and says, "Sure thing," and starts to gather all of them up for me. I start to walk away slowly so I can see the aftermath, and she shrilly shouts out, "He did what?" and then whips her head around to look at me. Now, I wish I could say I locked eyes with her and I ate a wedge right in her face, but of course, that idea came to me as I recounted this tale to my wife at home. But with all things considered, this is the best $14 I've ever spent because this entitled Karen was being incredibly obnoxious. Okay, I'm a big fan of what just happened here. That is insane in my opinion. First of all, this Karen must have been raised by wolves because holy crap. You don't just jump in front of someone at the deli line and be like, "It's first come, first serve, every man for himself." Like, no, dude, there's a line for a reason. What are you doing? This is not the Hunger Games, lady. Like, chill out. But for me, it's the fact that she kept trying to do it over and over again. She just kept saying like, "Oh no, I'm gonna get in front of everybody. I'm gonna get in the front of that line and I'm gonna get those wedges." And it's like, holy crap, this is the most important thing in your life right now. This is all you've got going on. Like, I don't know what rock bottom looks like, but I'm pretty sure this is it. So for me, the greatest part about this is the fact that the original poster bought all of the potato wedges. He bought all of them. He said, "Put them all in. I want every single one of them." And my God, oh my God, I love it so much. That's so beautiful to me. Like, that is the kind of revenge you want to get on someone who's being obnoxious. It doesn't harm them directly, but it absolutely gets in the way of what they want. And that lady wanted those potato wedges more than they wanted to be a decent person. So yeah, I love this story. This is so funny to me because this Karen absolutely deserved this, especially after being so incredibly obnoxious. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Today, I found out that my girlfriend has been cheating on me for months, and after finding out all the messages and seeing that this has been going on for so long, I now feel completely heartbroken and so lost, because right now, I really just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, I'm posting this on the internet because I have nowhere else to turn. I feel like my whole world has just been pulled out from underneath me. I don't know if I'm looking for advice or just a place to scream into the void, but here I am. My girlfriend, let's call her Sarah, has been with me for about 3 years now. 3 incredible, amazing years. We have plans. We were looking at apartments, talking about getting a dog, and even had a vacation plan for next month. I thought that she was the one. I genuinely believed that we were building a life together. But today I found out that she's been sleeping with a guy from her work. Not just once, mind you, but multiple times. I saw the messages. I wasn't snooping. I mean, a text message popped up on her phone while she was in the shower, and I saw his name and a message that just didn't look right. My stomach dropped and I just simply had to look. The messages were explicit. They talked about meeting up and how they almost got caught, and how they were so close to being together. And apparently this has been going on for months. I confronted her and she didn't even try to deny it. She just broke down crying and said it was a mistake and that she loves me. But how can you love someone and do something like this? The betrayal, the lies, the sheer disrespect. It's just too too much. I feel so incredibly stupid. Like, was everything a lie? Was her saying, oh, I love you and all the cuddles and the plans for the future? Was all of this just a performance? I feel so numb. I haven't cried yet, but I can feel it bubbling beneath the surface. So I just packed a bag and I came to my friend's place, and I honestly just don't know what to do. I don't know if I should try to talk to her again or if I should just cut all ties and try to move on, because right now I feel incredibly lost. Okay, in my opinion, and this is just me, it kind of seems like she's only crying because she got caught, and not because she realizes that what she did was bad, and she's like, oh no, cheating's bad, what did I do? Like, she's clearly only upset because you found out about it, not because she feels bad about cheating on you in the first place. Like, that's my take at least, that's kind of the vibe I'm picking up here, and honestly, I really do feel like you can do better. Like, I totally understand you've been with this person for 3 years, you loved her so much, and then suddenly she cheats on you, and it's like, holy crap, this has been going on for months, are you kidding me right now? But this is not something that just happened overnight. She's clearly been thinking about it for a while, and she's been doing this for several weeks, man. Like, honestly, this is clearly not a good girlfriend, and there's just no way, for me at least, I would ever want to go back to that and like try to continue anything with this person. Because in my opinion, hiding something like that for so long is an absolute deal breaker, and there's no way in the world I would ever want to be with someone who's ever going to treat me like that. My boyfriend demanded that I not post any of my graduation pictures, as he seriously believes that I'm just posting them to look for attention. As he said that if I do post them, I shouldn't even bother coming back to our place that night. As he seriously gave me an ultimatum that I honestly never expected in my entire life. And right now, I'm not sure if I'm overreacting or not, and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 24-year-old female, and I graduated last weekend and wore a fitted mini dress. And for reference, this wasn't like a really short dress, and it wasn't showing any of my chest area, if you know what I mean. Now, this event was a big deal for me. I'm the first in my family to graduate, so I got lots of photos with my parents and my friends. My 27-year-old boyfriend was there, and he was super sweet all day. But on the way home, he asked to see the photos I was going to post, and then said he doesn't want me posting them because it looks thirsty and invites attention. Now, I just laughed thinking that he was joking, but he doubled down and said if I post these, I shouldn't come back to our place that night. Literally an ultimatum over graduation pictures. He framed it as respect, and that his coworkers and family follow me, saying that it reflects on him. Well, I ended up not posting and stayed at my mom's house because I was so upset and honestly just really embarrassed. He then texted later saying, I'm glad you respected our relationship. Then the next 2 days asked me to delete some old vacation photos as well. Now, for a bit of context, he's made little comments before. Like, for example, he'll comment on my makeup being a lot, or him not loving a certain top that I'm wearing, stuff like that, but never an explicit do this or else type of situation. He's not a monster. I mean, he's been really good to me in other ways, but I can't shake this feeling. It feels controlling, and I'm worried it's a preview of what's next. So am I overreacting for considering breaking up over this one incident? Is this the kind of boundary you compromise on, or a line in the sand? I mean, how do you all handle social media boundaries in relationships, you know, without it turning into control? I'd really appreciate some honest takes because right now I just don't know what to do. Okay, this seems really weird because I think your boyfriend is 100% being controlling. Even the idea of you not posting pictures about yourself all because your boyfriend's like, oh, you're looking for attention. Like, that's so dumb and insecure. Like, what's wrong with him? You're not doing anything wrong. You're just celebrating your graduation. Like, come on, dude. It's also really concerning that he wants to sit there and be like, oh, you can either do that or else don't even like worry about coming back to our place that night. It's like, dude, what is that supposed to mean? Like, I don't know about you, but I'm not really a fan of veiled threats. Like, what's going on right now? And it's so funny to me that him trying to be like, oh, I'm glad you respected our relationship. It's like, okay, so it's only respect to the relationship if I do what you say and not post pictures about my graduation like I want to do. Which, by the way, innately, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, from the sounds of it, the dress she wore was pretty modest. It's not like showing off like her entire body. It's not like she graduated in a bikini. Like, come on, man, what's going on right now? So in my opinion, no, you're not overreacting. Because the fact that he gave you an ultimatum, in my opinion, is a huge red flag. And that is not something I would ever ignore. My work friends were giving me the silent treatment after I made an edgy political joke. And now after being shut out and completely cut off from the group, they're now reaching out trying to be friends again. And I'm honestly wondering if it's worth rekindling this friendship because right now I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. So I started this new job back in June, and I made some friends with 2 other new hires in my training class. I was happy to have friends as I'm usually a loner, but I enjoyed spending time with them. We would play small pranks and poke fun at each other, so I didn't think it would be out of the ordinary for me to make an edgy joke. Well, it was not well received, and I tried to clear things up by explaining myself, but they just didn't seem to care. One of my friends, who's 22 years old, who we will call Harry, has hardly even spoken to me ever since then. I sat down with him at lunch like I usually do, and he left without speaking to me. My other friend, who's 29 years old, who we'll we'll call Larry, wanted to hear me out but still thought I went too far and hasn't tried speaking to me ever since. So basically here's the timeline. Last Wednesday I made a joke that they didn't like, Thursday they would hardly even talk to me, and after that I could tell that I wasn't really welcome to sit with them anymore, so I just kinda kept to myself. Which then brings us to present day. Larry decided to reach out on our team's group chat and asked to have lunch with them tomorrow. I'm really torn about it because on one hand, they stopped talking to me because I said something they didn't agree with, and I don't want to be friends with someone who would do that. On the other hand, I'm sad that I finally made friends after being alone most of my life, and I wish I could just make it up. I know I messed up, so I don't need to be told that I shouldn't bring politics up at work, but I don't think I deserve friends who would go days without talking to me just because they disagreed with me. Is it worth rekindling our friendship? Because right now I just don't know what to do. Okay, I've got kind of a hot take here, but in my opinion, any kind of edgy joke is definitely not meant for work. It's never gonna land correctly, someone's always gonna be offended, but that's especially true if it's political in nature. Like, dude, what are you doing, man? Like, you've gotta realize that there really are some people who just show up to work to get a paycheck, and they're not really interested in having these weird political, like, edgy jokes thrown their way. So the second you say anything of that nature, they're gonna be like, what's going on here, dude? I'm just trying to get to 5 o'clock and get out of here. So then they're just gonna walk away and take a step back, and it's like, okay, well, what did you expect? Did you really expect them to be like, oh yeah, that was so funny? Like, I really feel like you put yourself at risk of like getting in trouble with human resources or something like that. And I've seen people do that. People will take like the smallest things you say and then extrapolate it into something absolutely awful. And I really think under any other circumstance or like kind of environment you might be in, this joke would probably land just fine and no one would have any problem with it. But it's the fact that it happened at work, in my opinion, is what's gonna compound it so much. Because people at work can sometimes just like get you in trouble simply out of spite or ostracize you for the dumbest reasons possible. And from the sounds of it, you kind of gave them a reason on a silver platter. So in my opinion, I think you can certainly try to like rekindle the friendship, but I guarantee you it's probably never gonna be the same. And hopefully you don't make that kind of mistake again of like, oh yeah, I'm gonna like make edgy jokes and it's gonna land correctly. Because these people are not gonna get the joke and they literally are just gonna ostracize you once again if it ever happens again. And that in my opinion is not worth it. Am I the jerk for always parking in the same parking spot in my parking lot? Because after I found a note on my car demanding that I move, I'm starting to rethink my decisions because right now I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to start this off by saying that someone left a note on my car asking to please move my car as it's been like a week of it parking there. Now for a bit of context, I live in an apartment complex where each unit is allowed one covered parking space that is paid for on a monthly basis. All other non-covered spaces are basically a first come first serve type of parking spot. The free parking spaces are somewhat limited, and after about 6 o'clock when everyone's getting off of work, they do fill up fast and you usually have to park further away and walk, which is really inconvenient. But it is just the reality when every apartment unit has like 2 to 3 cars. Now I've lived here for like 2 years and I always parked in the same spot or the other 2 spots directly next to it. I work from home, so there are times when the car is sitting there for a couple of days. However, I do usually take my car out in the morning several times a week just to get coffee or to run errands, and when I come back, my spot is still open, so I park in the same spot again. While I understand someone getting annoyed if they have to park further away and they always see my car parked in the same spot, considering it's first come first serve parking, it honestly baffles me that someone had the audacity to write a note, as if I need to inconvenience myself just because they are inconvenienced. Like, if you have to walk farther, that's not really my issue. I'm entitled to park here as much or as little as I please. So am I the jerk for always parking in the same spot, even when I know I may not use my car again for a couple of days? Am I wrong for thinking the person who wrote the note has some serious audacity? Because right now I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong. Okay, honestly, the guy who wrote the note is clearly salty that you got a good spot and they can't do anything about it. Because seriously, what are they complaining about? This is so dumb. Are they really coming to you and be like, dude, you're taking one of the public spots, stop it, I want it? But it's like, dude, if you want it, then park there yourself. What is the problem here? Because the original poster has it right. Why should they inconvenience themselves just because this person wants their spot? Like, I would never move for this person in a million years. There's no way, dude. So no, you're definitely not the jerk. This guy's a complete moron for even approaching you about this, because in my opinion, you have every right to park there just as much as they do. And the fact that they want you to move, in my opinion, is just completely baffling. My boyfriend is mad that I'm going on a family vacation without him, and right now he's making me feel very selfish and almost like I want to cancel altogether, because right now I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. So my dad booked about a month-long trip to Thailand for himself just to get away and have some time to himself. Well, he just surprised me with a ticket to join him for 2 out of the 4 weeks that he will be there. The plan is that I'll be staying with my dad in his hotel room. I also haven't traveled much, and my dad is generous to take me with him. We are very close, and I think it'll be a good opportunity to spend some time with him, as I feel I've been very distant lately. Now, my boyfriend and I have been seeing each other for about 2 years, and apparently he's upset with me because he wasn't invited by my dad or me on this trip. And he's also upset with the fact that the dates of the trip overlap with Thanksgiving and that I won't be there to celebrate with him. He feels like I don't see him as a priority. I think it may be hitting him extra hard because we previously discussed really wanting to go to Thailand together in the future, especially with his mom as he is half Thai, not to mention the fact that he's never been there before. My boyfriend and I just went on a week-long trip together as well, which he paid all the expenses for. He was talking about trying to save up money for the rest of the year, so more travel wasn't really in the books for us. But I explained to him this has nothing to do with him, and that my dad just wants to have some time bonding with me. In fact, my mom isn't even going either. It's just my dad and I, so it's not like some big family event thing where I have siblings and their partners coming either. My dad's birthday is also around Thanksgiving, and one of the dates we will be gone. I feel bad because we talked about going to Thailand with his mother before, which I was invited to, even though those plans haven't come to fruition, and the fact that I am missing Thanksgiving. And to be fair, 2 weeks is also a decent time to be away, though I feel like I should be able to go on a trip with my father without him. If my boyfriend goes, I obviously wouldn't spend that much time with my dad. My dad is getting older, and for reference, he's 77 years old, and I just don't know how many opportunities like this I will be able to have when I feel like my boyfriend and I have the rest of our lives to travel together. Part of me feels like I don't even want to go anymore, just based on the way he's acting. But what can I do to possibly make my boyfriend feel better about this? Should I cancel altogether? I'd honestly like to hear some input from an outside perspective, because I'm really not sure if I'm being selfish, and I seriously just don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, I think your boyfriend's being super weird here, and there is no reason for him to be acting like this. Like, seriously, this is so dumb. Why can't he be happy that you're going to spend time with your dad, instead of trying to act like, well, what about me? Why wasn't I invited? And it's like, dude, maybe because you're not his daughter? Like, what's going on right now? Like, the man is 77 years old, and he probably just wants to spend time with his family before he passes away eventually. Like, come on, man, this is honestly not that hard to understand. So no, I don't think you're being selfish at all. I think you're just trying to spend time with your dad, and your boyfriend's clearly butthurt about it, and that is not your problem in the slightest. My girlfriend invited another man that she met at a business trip conference that she had never met before to spend the night, and I'm honestly now considering ending my relationship of 3 years with her, because right now my trust has been completely betrayed. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my girlfriend was away at a work conference in a touristy town when she texted me right before she went to bed about how she invited a man to stay in her room with her. She explained how the room had 2 beds, and how she and a couple other people that she had met at the conference really hit it off, and how if she didn't offer the room to him, he would not have been able to go and do some tourist stuff with them as a group. She said it's not a big deal, and I might not be understanding the context of the situation, considering how respectful he was. Well, I took issue with this immediately, but it was obviously too late for me to object, as they were already at the hotel at the end of the day. I obviously have a lot of trust in her, but I'm really upset that she wouldn't run it by me first, considering my history with trust issues that she clearly knows about. She has never done anything like this before, and I know she is an outgoing person. Her job is very niche, and it's not often that she gets to talk with like-minded people in depth about her passion for her work. So I could see her making friends quickly with people based on that, but I'm honestly considering ending our relationship of 3 years over this. It feels like a massive betrayal to me, and I'm just hurt. Is there any way for me to save the relationship and move past this? Because I simply don't know what to do. Okay, someone in the comments section said it before I could, but yeah, she knows exactly what she's doing. She didn't just invite this guy for nothing. She clearly was hoping something was gonna happen, and she set up the perfect scenario to not only ask you last second, but also put him in the same room as her and be like, okay, we're gonna get some sleep. But it's like, what is she actually hoping for there? Like, why invite another man into your hotel room without even pretending like you have a boyfriend? Because that's exactly what it seems like she's doing. She basically said, oh, you can stay in my room. There's 2 beds. There's not a big deal. But in my opinion, this is a huge deal. So I completely relate with the original poster. I would also be very pissed off about this. And honestly, with all things considered, I don't blame you for feeling like this relationship should be over, because what she did is incredibly weird, and there's just no way this is ever going to be appropriate. My entitled neighbor doesn't want me to walk down the street that she lives on because her neighbor's pit bull goes crazy anytime it sees me. And now I'm wondering if I'm the jerk for still choosing to walk down this road, because I personally find this request to be completely ridiculous. Here's what's going on. Okay, about 2 months ago, this neighbor, let's call her Joanne, left a letter in my mailbox requesting that I avoid walking down her street because her neighbor that owns a reactive pit bull goes crazy when I walk by him with my two 35-pound dogs. And for reference, my dogs are also not big fans of other dogs. She explained that the dog belongs to a guy who lives there with another woman, and he recently passed away, and the dog is confused and extra reactive. For a while, I would walk down the street and the dog was chained up in the front yard and would go crazy, so for my own safety, I would avoid walking down that particular street. A few months passed and I don't see the dog chained up outside anymore, so I start walking down that road. There's 2 loops in my neighborhood, and if I go on the second one, it takes me twice as long. Well, yesterday I'm walking down the road and said pit bull is not outside, and this lady literally comes running out of the house, yelling at me to stop walking down the street, as the dog's inside the house and just goes crazy, as she was screaming that I need to turn around right now. I then explained to her that I live in this neighborhood and that I have a right to walk down a public road if I'm so inclined, but I will do my best to avoid walking by if the dog's outside, but it is seriously ridiculous to ask me to come by here when the dog is inside the house. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Should I just go out of my way to avoid an entire street when walking my dogs? Because right now I really just don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, this sounds like some idiot who just can't stay out of other people's business, because this is just so stupid, dude. First of all, there's no reason why you can't walk down the road. You're just walking your dogs, man. You're not bothering anybody. If that stupid pit bull is going crazy, then congratulations. The dog can get pissed off and stay chained up. It would be a different story if that thing was like chasing you around the neighborhood, because that's just really dangerous. So no, you're not the jerk for walking on the street you live, dude. This lady's a busybody and she's clearly just trying to like boss people around. And this is all based on stuff that she's assuming, and it's like, oh, you're making this dog go crazy. But it's like, dude, that's not my problem. I have a right to walk wherever I want. And this Joanne lady literally can't tell someone whether they can or cannot walk down a public road. An entitled Karen tries to steal my phone after I refuse to give it to her child. She then ends up breaking my phone and the cops have to show up. Here's what happened. So this story takes place when I had fallen sick and had to book an emergency appointment with the doctor so I could get checked out. I also needed paperwork for my work from my doctor, basically saying that I was here. I was sitting in the waiting room using my phone to distract myself from the uncomfortable feeling in my stomach. I was just sitting there on my phone reading Reddit when the entitled Karen and her child came in. The entitled Karen went up to the front desk and said, "I have an appointment with the doctor for my little angel." The receptionist checked the register with the aid of the names and the entitled Karen's ID and told them flat out, "Ma'am, you're 2 hours early. Would you prefer to come back in 2 hours, or do you want to wait in the waiting room for an opening?" The entitled Karen looked at the lady at the front desk and said, "I will just go sit down with my little angel. Just please go talk to the doctor, and I'm sure he will see us immediately." As a side note, the waiting room was incredibly busy. A lot of people are here, and my own appointment is already being delayed by about 20 minutes. The entitled Karen and her child sit down a few chairs over, and I was just minding my own business, reading stories on Reddit on my phone, when suddenly the Karen's kid was standing right in front of me. They looked at me and said, "Do you have any games on your phone?" I responded and said, "Just a few, but I'm reading right now." The kid then immediately chimed in and said, "Can I play games on your phone?" I looked up and I said, "I would rather not. As I said, I'm reading, and this is a good distraction from the sick feeling I've got." This spoiled brat then goes to his mom and cries about not being able to play games on my phone. The entitled Karen then comes over to me and says, "Give my little angel your phone. You've clearly had it for too long already, so you can miss it for a few minutes." When she said this, I was absolutely dumbfounded. I said, "Ma'am, I'm not giving your son my phone. I like my phone, and I would rather not have your son break it more than it already is." As a note, my phone has a few cracks on the screen, but it's not impossible to use. I then asked the Karen, "Why won't you just let him use your phone?" This entitled Karen just wasn't having it when she said, "You clearly have no idea what it is like to have children. He will break my phone if I let him. But if he breaks yours, it won't matter because you're obviously capable of buying a new one yourself." I have no idea why she thinks that, as I'm not even dressed fancy or wearing expensive jewelry. Also, if I could buy a new phone so easily, I would not be using this one still after 7 years and many falls and scratches and cracks. I look at her flat out and I say, "I'm not giving your son my phone." A moment of silence happens when suddenly I hear footsteps and I see a glimpse of long fake nails as my phone is snatched out of my hands. I look up to see this entitled Karen holding my phone triumphantly while smirking down at me. Her spoiled little brat was even standing next to her smiling too. And this is where things really started to pop off, because out of nowhere, an older gentleman that was in the lobby gets up, grabs her by the wrist, and very calmly tells her to give me my phone back. He says, "I might be retired from the police force, but I still know how to restrain a thief. life, and I can call someone to arrest you in seconds." The entitled Karen flipped the switch and said, "How dare you assault me in front of my child, you old lying fart. Get your hands off of me or I will call the real cops on you." After this, everything went so fast. My phone ended up on the ground and the entitled Karen was yelling at the receptionist, complaining that they were letting sickos and criminals do as they please in their lobby. The spoiled brat was also crying at this Karen's leg, while the older gentleman asked if I'm okay. It took me a little to realize that I had quite the scratch on my face from this entitled Karen's horrible nails, who must have suddenly scratched me without me realizing. The scratches weren't bad, but they did hurt a little bit. The entitled Karen got so uptight against the receptionist that she ended up forcing them to call the police, which were just one street away. Pretty quickly, the police arrived, and the entitled Karen started to yell lies at them. But the officer recognized the older gentleman and knew him to be an honest man, so they asked him what happened. They also asked my side of the story, as well as the front desk receptionist, trying to figure out what actually happened. This entitled Karen was enraged and screams about how everyone is against her, as well as her little angel. As she gets taken away with her son, I pick up my phone to see extra scratch marks on my phone, making it completely unreadable. I got asked by the police officer if I wanted to press charges, but I didn't want to go through all of that. To this day, my phone is still unusable, and thankfully I didn't get seriously injured. It turns out that this entitled Karen is known for such behavior, and this wasn't her first time getting dragged off by the police. The receptionist even told me that half the time that she comes in here, the entitled Karen's kid is not even sick, but in reality, all she wants to do is just flirt with the doctor. That is absolute madness. I can't imagine someone destroying my personal property, as well as somebody scratching me in the face, all because I didn't want to give them my phone. And why would you? This person was clearly just gonna break it. How unbelievably entitled do you have to be to act like that? That's just super cringy, and it literally blows my mind that the original poster didn't press charges. If I was in their shoes, I would have immediately pressed charges on this person. They assaulted you and they destroyed your phone. I would have gladly pressed charges against this individual because I would never want anybody else to have to deal with this. But thankfully, it looks like there's good people in the world because that older gentleman stepped up to the plate and helped take care of this crazy Karen. But leave a comment down below. What would you do if you were in this situation? Would you have just let it slide and say, hey, this is not worth my time? Or would you have pressed charges against this person after they scratched you and destroyed your phone? Let us know down below. My boyfriend is draining me financially, and I'm not sure if I should break up with him or if I should stay. We've been together for 7 years and living together for 6. The first few years were great. We laughed, made memories, taught each other how to grow and be confident. It literally felt like I was living a cheesy rom-com. Things changed when he quit his job a few years ago. At first, he couldn't go back because he was medically unfit to work, but then the story changed into him not wanting to be a part of the system anymore. As a result, I juggled 2 to 3 jobs just to make ends meet. It cost me my free time, my hobbies, and my health. A few months ago, I was able to move from 2 jobs to just one that paid really well. However, I still can't keep up with the bills. I broke down one night and begged him to find work again because it was mentally and physically draining me to be the sole provider in this household. He said he would look, but his criteria for work is impossible to meet, especially with his work history and bad attitude towards authority. I've asked him to jump into anything that would allow me to catch my breath, but he tells me that I'm asking too much of him, stating that I need to stop trying to live a lavish life or whatever that means. And he says this every time I ask him to get to work. Ever since becoming the sole provider in this house, I've never had a day off. I've never bought anything myself unless I needed it for work, and I even gave up my hobbies. I started wondering, am I selfish for wanting a day off and not have to wonder if we can eat dinner that night? I want to leave. Every sign is telling me to leave and never look back. But when I start to have the conversation, I'm guilted into feeling like the crazy one, or that I have too high of expectations for life. I also worry that since he has no job, he'll end up homeless or loveless. The last thing I want to do is ruin his life. After all, we had some genuinely good moments together that I can't seem to forget. This is my first long-term relationship, and I don't have a lot of dating experience, especially when it comes to breakups. This is honestly so hard, and I don't know what to do. Your boyfriend has it completely twisted. You're not trying to live a lavish lifestyle. You're literally trying to make ends meet because he's too lazy to get back to work. This man is playing you 100%. He is gaslighting you into thinking that anything less than you working working your butt off means that you are entitled and not doing enough. I mean, you asked him to get a job and he basically said, "Whoa, you're asking too much." It's completely unfair and the power dynamic here is very shifted in his favor. You know why he's not getting a job? Because you've enabled him to not need a job. This is not your fault, don't get me wrong, but he has convinced you that it's okay for him to stay at home and to sleep in all day while you bust your butt every single day, and he just reaps the benefits of it. It's not fair, and it is absolutely at your expense. You've sacrificed so much just to be able to provide for yourself as well as him. So honestly, the problem is absolutely with him. His inability to get back to work and to do something with his life is ruining your life. So in my opinion, it's time to tell him straight up, either get a job or we're done, because you are absolutely exhausted and you can't keep living like this. And you know what? If you leaving him and going to live somewhere else causes him to go homeless and to not have any love in his life, then that is 100% his problem. He is doing nothing to try and help himself and better himself in general. And if your boyfriend is not willing to meet the bare minimum requirements of just living together and helping financially and physically, then by all means, I would go with your original idea and ditch this guy. I don't care how long you've been with him. He's clearly taking advantage of you, and you can honestly do much better than this. Today, I messed up by letting my friend who likes to prank people into my house. He then lit on fire and burned my Pokemon cards that was worth well over $8,000. Here's what happened. To start things off, let me give you some backstory. When I was in the 3rd grade, my grandfather passed away, and 2 weeks later in school, I found the most destroyed Pokemon card on the road. My grandfather always had a white beard, and the Pokemon on the card kind of reminded me of him. So from that moment on, I decided that I would collect Pokemon cards. So for 8 years now, I collected close to 15,000 Pokemon cards. I know you guys may be like, wow, that's a huge waste of money, as well as other stuff like that. But it reminded me of my grandfather, and I love collecting stuff. So for 8 years, Christmases, birthdays, Easters, every chance I got, I would ask to get Pokemon cards. It was a mini obsession. I had even collected all of the original cards. It was very expensive, but this was my life, and it was something that I loved doing. Now here comes a friend, let's call him Cole for safety reasons. That's not his real name. I've been friends with Cole ever since 7th grade, and I knew he loved my Pokemon cards. Sometime during freshman year before lockdown, he started a prank YouTube channel. He got a lot of views and a lot of subscribers. So because of that, he would always do mini pranks. I wouldn't get too upset, but he took it too far this weekend. So Saturday, he was chilling at my house because I invited him over. Well, everything seemed normal, but he asked to go to the bathroom when we were watching a movie. I keep my Pokemon cards in my room in my closet for safety. He was gone for a while, but I didn't really suspect anything. Well, flash forward to Monday. I look in my closet and all of my Pokemon cards are gone. Quite literally all of them. How he snuck all of them out is beyond me. I honestly wish I had had a camera, so I texted Cole and said, "Hey, do you know what happened to my Pokemon cards?" Cole responded by saying, maybe Charizard ate them? I told Cole, I'm not messing around. Can you please give them back? They mean a lot to me and you know that. He didn't reply after that. That is until I got a notification that he posted on YouTube. It was of him and his friend. It was a video of them taking my Pokemon cards out my back door, and along with that, they had 15,000 fake cards made, with only the backs on them and a white front. Then they burned the rest. I understand what he meant by maybe Charizard got to them. For those of you who don't know, Charizard is like a fire Pokemon, and I honestly can't believe he's done this to me. He called me and said he meant to burn the fake cards, but ended up burning the real ones on accident, which I really don't think is true because the real ones were in special cases. I am now completely broken. Those Pokemon cards were a second part to me. I sent him a huge message, and he replied that it was just a prank and to relax. He destroyed $8,000 worth of cards. I am just so broken over this. I blasted him on social media, and a bunch of his friends got mad at him, and a few got mad at me telling me to drop it. People were telling me to go to the authorities, but I'm not that type of person. He ended up deleting the video, but I'm still so very upset. All I could think about was the first card I got that reminded me of my grandfather. He messaged me today calling me a traitor for turning his friends against him in a huge paragraph about how it was a prank gone wrong and how I needed to grow up because we're about to graduate high school, saying that Pokemon cards are for little kids. Before we dive into this story and how crazy it is, the original poster actually gave us some updates. After this post blew up online, he had a few more things to say about the situation. So after going through photos and messages and receipts, the original poster states that after a lot of thought and a lot of encouragement from people online, he is going to be pressing charges and taking his friend to court. And while he collected about $8,000 worth worth of Pokemon cards, the value of it was easily over $20,000, especially since he had some of the older sets that were very valuable. So he has every plans of going to the police and reporting this, as well as getting a good lawyer to try and get this taken care of. He said the following: "So after going through photos and messages, as well as receipts, I'm able to compile a minimum of $3,000 in value of Pokemon cards that I've collected, and I'm taking this evidence to the cops tomorrow. I spoke to my cousin, and he said I'm gonna need solid proof of what the cards were worth, as well as their replacement value. He's a decent lawyer, but he thinks I can get $5,000 to $10,000 in court for emotional damage. That's on top of the replacement value as well. I'm very disappointed because not only has he ignored my calls and messages, but I have also lost a huge part of my life." The original poster goes on to state that they know they're not going to get all of their money back, nor all of the cards back as well, but he states that he can restart and try and build up his collection again. The original poster then goes on to discuss their interaction with Cole. They state, "As to my last post, I decided to go to the authorities. However, me being me, I decided to give him one last chance. 3 hours ago, roughly at around 7 in the morning, I decided to give him a call. I think he was sleeping because when he picked up, he was very groggy. The call went a little something like this. I said, 'Cole, I'm being completely serious. If this is a prank or if you still have my cards, I am begging you to give them back. They meant the world to me.' Cole responded by saying, 'Dude, I told you I don't have them. I'm sorry about what happened, man. I really am. I went too far.' I said, 'Saying sorry isn't enough. You knew how much those cards meant to me and you destroyed a part of my life.' Cole then said, 'I promise it was just an accident.' I hung up on him after a few more comments about how sorry he was. I didn't bother to bring up repayment, and the anger seemed to boil the tears away because I had a sense of justice in me. It took me about 2 hours to psych myself up to go to the police department. When I walked in, it was very overwhelming. There was a lot of talking and a lot of phones ringing. I walked up to the front desk and asked to report a crime. Maybe 10 minutes later, an officer comes in for an inquiry. After telling him what happened, he seemed very hurt for me. After he asked for evidence and later helped me email everything I had to the police department, as well as to him directly, he asked me if I was sure he burnt the real cards, and I told him I'm about 80% sure. After that, I don't really know much about what will happen next. However, I was told that I couldn't press charges yet, and how they had to open an investigation and gather sufficient evidence and to go over my evidence. They said that they would be contacting me. When I walked out of that police department, I felt like a brand new person, but the same person all over again. Because in that moment, I think I broke down a little bit. I was silent the whole ride home. I didn't even sing along with the radio, which I love to do. I graciously thank everyone for their support. And for those of you who are hurting with me and wanting to support me, I thank you for your kind words and your gestures. I really just hope I'm able to find some kind of justice towards my situation and losing all of those Pokemon cards. There is a lot to unpack here. I am so proud of this original poster for getting past their anxiety and going to the authorities. There is legitimately no excuse for the kind of behavior that Cole exhibited. They burned your personal property that was worth thousands of dollars. As someone who also collected trading cards when I was a kid, of all kinds, I would be so hurt if someone burned my collection. That is absolutely devastating to have something in your life taken away from you, all because of someone else wanting to make a prank video on YouTube. I really hope you're able to prove once and for all that this guy absolutely did burn your cards, and this way gets charged with something. It's not fair, and he absolutely deserves to pay for his crime. Hopefully this guy's able to find a good lawyer to help him out in this situation, because there's a lot of nuance to this that I definitely do not know the details of. But with whatever happens, I hope it works out, and I hope you're able to find justice for your destroyed Pokemon cards. My girlfriend turns off her location on her phone when she leaves her house and when I'm not in town, and I don't know what to do. Every time my girlfriend goes out to the store and I'm not in town, she turns her location off. But what she doesn't know is that I can see when she turns off her location. Every time she does it, she claims she is getting me a surprise. But every time I get back in town, there is no surprise. My oblivious self did not think to remember about the surprise, and it's never a surprise enough for her to remember to tell me. The first time she did this, I was 2,000 miles across the country and did not think anything of it. When I asked her where she was, she said, and I quote, "It's a surprise. Don't worry, I'll have it for you when you get back into town." I was confused at first, but I know how fast the rabbit hole of overthinking can be, so I chose not to think anything of it. But now that it's reoccurring, I'm not sure what to think at all. She is a very popular person amongst her peers and around our school. She cheerleads and has dropped drop dead gorgeous. It would be super easy for her to pick up anybody that she meets and make them hers because of her social status. This leads me to believe things I thought I never would have to worry about. As I'm writing this, she is currently at a store that would apparently give away the surprise gift she had. So she has turned off her location because it would apparently be too obvious. I don't know if I should believe her because I love her to bits, or if I should dig deeper and lose trust with her if I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just overreacting, but I want her to be honest with me. Whatever the truth may be, I just need to know. What should I do? I can definitely see where the original poster is coming from, where they say that this is kind of weird. The original poster goes on to say that this was actually his girlfriend's idea for them both to have their locations on so they can both know where each other are in case of like an emergency or anything like that. So this is why they are so confused that their girlfriend is constantly turning off their location when they go out and about and do other things. So from their perspective, it seems super sketchy. The original poster also went on to say that when they confronted their girlfriend about this, she claims to have forgotten about all the incidents regarding her location being turned off. They told her that it made them feel confused about what was going on, but that the girlfriend still seemed unfazed by this. And this really was incredibly upsetting for them. But even with that in mind and all things considered, I think it's really inappropriate to jump to some weird conclusion. We're going from your girlfriend's just turning off her location to you thinking, oh no, she has to be cheating. Just because your girlfriend is pretty and drop dead gorgeous, as you put it, doesn't mean that she's cheating. And I honestly don't think she's tricking you in any kind of way. She could very well be turning off her location so you can't see that she's going to a specific doctor's office. It could also be the fact that, yeah, maybe she is planning some big surprise and she doesn't want you to know the details yet because she's not ready. And the only way she can get away with doing that is by turning off location and then going to these certain stores. Is there some kind of like anniversary coming up or some kind of celebration or a birthday that would possibly explain this type of behavior? I just think there's a lot of other explanations here besides, oh no, my girlfriend's cheating on me. Especially if there's no history of cheating and there's no reason for you to think that either of you would be disloyal. And there's also the possibility that she does know that you're tracking her every move. So that's why she's turning it off, just to maybe have some privacy. There are a lot of options here and there could be a lot of reasons why this is happening. So in my opinion, I wouldn't jump to some crazy conclusion because it very well could cause some unnecessary friction in your relationship. And I don't think either of you would want that. An entitled Karen trespasses onto my property, demanding that I allow her entitled child to swim in my private pool. Even after telling them multiple times that they need to get off of my property, this lady simply would not take no for an answer. Here's what happened. To provide some backstory and some context, I live right next to a lake. It's great being able to live here because in the summer, I can just walk from my backyard straight onto the beach. I absolutely love swimming. However, in the late fall to the early spring, the water can be absolutely freezing. Sometimes I see people go to the lake on warm days, thinking that the lake would be a nice cool temperature before jumping out, realizing the lake was still freezing. So when the lake was still cold, I decided to get a small heated pool for the backyard. I've had this pool for about 2 years before this incident happened in early spring, when the water was absolutely freezing. I had just been swimming in my pool when I had to go inside to use the restroom. I had planned on coming back out, so I had left the pool uncovered. However, when inside, my phone started ringing. I answered the phone and it was my brother, and he needed me to get some information for him from my computer. So I got distracted for about 30 minutes before finally heading back outside. And this is when I met this entitled Karen and her spoiled child. Karen had plopped herself down on my lawn chair. Meanwhile, the previous inhabitants of the chair, my hat and sunscreen, were now conveniently laying on the ground. The spoiled child was also already swimming in my pool. My mind was not completely caught up with why in the world they were in my pool. So I just said, excuse me, why are you on my property? The entitled Karen looked up and said, oh, is this your property? Flabbergasted at such a stupid remark, I said, yes, this is my property. Why are you here? The Karen then looked at me and used a tone as if she was explaining something to a child. She said, you see, my son here wanted to go for a swim, but the lake was a little too cold. Isn't that right? I normally have a pretty long fuse, but after hearing her talk to me like a child, it was as if that fuse just got cut a little bit shorter in my mind. So I said to her coldly, the lake's cold, but that doesn't explain why you're on my property using my pool. The Karen didn't like me saying that because she said, you do not have to be so rude. I'm just trying to keep my kid happy. Throughout this, the kid has been swimming around in my pool, clearly just not even paying attention to the conversation. I say, well, I'm sorry, but I don't let strangers use my things. I then turned to the kid and said, so buddy, you need to get out of the pool. Maybe this was the wrong move to address the child because right after that, the Karen got up in my face and started screaming at me. She said, "How dare you talk to my child like that? He has feelings too. He deserves to be in that pool. Plus, making him get out of the pool, he could just get hypothermia. Do you want that? Do you want my kid to have hypothermia?" At this point, I had no idea what exactly I said to make this Karen explode at me, so I just turned back to her and calmly but sternly told her, "Look, I don't care how cold the lake is. It's a warm day after swimming in this pool, and in no way could he still get cold. And secondly, he has no right to be in this pool. This is my property, and you and your son both need to leave before I call the cops." To be honest, I've never heard of an argument escalating this fast, and now here I am in a situation I can hardly even believe. The Karen did not miss a beat. She just yelled, "Good! Go ahead and call the cops. I'll just tell them that you threatened my child and you harassed me." I looked this entitled Karen right in the eye and opened my mouth. But before I could say anything, she put her hand up as if to silence me before going over to her child and saying in a sweet tone, "It's okay. This mean man just wasn't raised as a caring person or someone who shared. I'll raise you better." I was utterly stunned. Not only did she silence me, but went and told her child that I was a jerk. So I responded, "Well, if I was raised wrong, then you clearly weren't raised at all. You're acting like an infant. Now get your baby emotions and your spoiled child off my property." I had never before come up with such a good insult on the spot before, but man, did that feel good. This time, it was her turn to be stunned. She did not say a word. She just pulled her child out of the pool, grabbed her stuff off of my chair, kicked it over, and walked off my lawn with her kid in tow, before yelling curse words back at me and flipping me off. Throughout this, I just stood there with a small smile on my face. But in truth, I was absolutely fuming. It had started so fast and ended even quicker. I have never seen her or her entitled child ever again. However, I have been worried about something like that happening again, so I installed cameras around the house just in case. It's crazy to think that someone would be so entitled that they would try and act like they have some weird privilege over your personal property. Like, can you imagine what would have happened if that kid got hurt on your property while they're just swimming around in your pool? That lady would have sued you for sure. There's no way I would let that person stay on my property and swim in my pool if I was in your shoes. And honestly, you did the right thing by threatening to call the police. This lady trespassed on your property and tried to push her will on you. Like, what a terrible parent. And the fact that you put cameras around your house just because of this incident is a fantastic idea. That was literally going to be my biggest suggestion while reading this. Hopefully this lady never comes back, and hopefully this kind of thing never happens again, because it's your pool and it's your property, and you should not have to bend to some weird lady's demands just because she's entitled. Everyone that I talk to about my engagement says terrible negative things, and I don't know what to do. I am engaged to my fiance, and since getting engaged, I have encountered many people who have either told me that I am too young to get married, or that we haven't gotten to know each other long enough, or that we should not bother getting married. One colleague even went so far as to tell me to let them know when I get divorced. A good example of these negative comments happened today. I went to the nail salon and my nail lady asked me about my ring, and once I explained it to her, she said that she was excited to paint my nails for my wedding. An older woman who was eavesdropping decided to butt in and laugh. She then told me that I'm way too young to get married. I tried to laugh it off by saying, "Oh, thanks for letting me know my eye cream works." But she ruined our conversation and put a dampener on my excitement. I now don't go around broadcasting our engagement, as I know people don't really care, and I don't want to push my personal life into people's faces. But if it comes up in conversation, I'll happily chat about our plans. And I'm astonished when people are bitter about it, as I wouldn't dare say the same to anyone else if they told me that they were engaged. I don't expect people to be jumping for joy when I tell them, but I also don't want people to laugh in my face and tell me that it won't last. I don't care about other people's opinions of my relationship, as we are completely in love and devoted to one another. But it does get you down when people react by pulling a face and laughing. I also don't feel I should have to hide our engagement just to appease others either. Has this happened to anyone else? What did you say back to people who were rude to you when you announced your engagement? What should I do? It's crazy that people would be this judgmental towards someone who's getting married. It is so toxic to chime in with some kind of opinion that's based on absolutely nothing other than how long they've been dating. And yeah, the marriage is a little quick in my opinion, but it doesn't mean I'm gonna vocalize that. Literally, this marriage has nothing to do with me, and it's none of my business. At most, you would hope that someone would have at least the common courtesy to just say, "Oh, congratulations," instead of sticking your nose in their business and saying, "You're
your marriage won't last.
Like, how weird is that? And it's one of those nasty, nice comments that a person can get from somebody who's pretending to care. Like, when someone comments like this, they don't actually care about your life, but instead they're trying to boil it down into something that it's not and pigeonhole you into a category that does not classify your situation. This person making this toxic comment probably thinks they're being helpful too, when in reality they're just simply being a jerk. So if I was in your shoes, I would stop being nice to these types of people. I wouldn't joke back, I wouldn't even say anything in response. I would probably just say thanks for your opinion and then go about my way, because these people do not define my future marriage. Here's the thing, I don't know how you feel about your fiance, and while I do think that this marriage is definitely happening a little quick in my opinion, it does not mean that it won't be successful. And it sounds like you love your fiance, so don't even worry what other people think. I would say if family and friends act this way, then guess what? They don't have to show up. In fact, if they're this negative towards you, I just wouldn't even invite them to the wedding. People telling you to let them know when you get divorced or saying that your marriage won't last should be a really good tell of if you should even invite them to your wedding or not. But overall, hopefully these people shut up and mind their own business and you're able to get married without any kind of problems from other people, because truly their opinions don't matter and you should honestly just ignore them. My boyfriend hung up on me after I said we should end things and break up, but I'm now really torn because I didn't get any closure out of the situation. What should I do? My now ex-boyfriend and I had a huge argument last night. Basically, we are both too busy to really work on the relationship, and it feels like our dirty laundry just keeps piling up without finding any appropriate resolutions. I have been thinking a lot about how at this rate, this just simply wouldn't work. Perhaps if we had more availability to put more work into the relationship, everything would work out. But the way it is, it just won't. We've been doing long distance from the beginning and have been seeing each other for 3 years. I think over time, I just started to feel lonely because every time I wanted to talk about something, I knew we had only really an hour to catch up. Plus, I know work was absolutely crushing him. Genuinely, he barely had enough time to sleep and to eat. I felt so guilty adding another thing to his plate. In fact, he would often express that I was adding too much to his plate. Over time, I think it was a mix of guilt and loneliness. I knew that it just simply wouldn't work out like this. So last night, at the end of the argument, where we have been running in circles for hours, I told him that, hey, I don't think this is gonna work. He immediately hung up on me afterwards and blocked me on various platforms. I truly love this man and I care for him. Even though I know I had to walk away from this relationship, I think he is and will forever be one of the greatest blessings in my life. But I know I said some hurtful things during the argument and then never really got to end things on a better note. I didn't need it to be perfect, but I didn't want a heated argument where we said things in the heat of the moment and then we were just gone forever. I haven't reached out to him yet, and I don't know if it's even a good idea to reach out at this point just to try and talk through things calmly. He has a lot of really old wounds, so I really just want to let him know that he's a good guy and he deserves so much more love, and that I am not abandoning him because I ran out of love to give. I just wanted us to stop hurting and to stop fighting. How can I ask for closure if that is even something I should do? Should I text him or should I try and talk to him over the phone? What should I do? I think you really need to take the hint and leave him alone. He has blocked you on multiple platforms. In fact, he clearly doesn't want to be with you anymore. You did just break up with him. And sure, it really is an aggressive way to end a relationship for him to suddenly hang up on you and then block you on every platform. But you said it best. He has some previous trauma when it comes to this, and this is probably how he responds. You leaving is probably only adding more fuel to that fire, to be honest. And I'm not saying you should have stuck with him, but I honestly don't think you should be surprised by this response either. But to be completely honest with you, it sounds like you really just want to get the last word in instead of actually talking through this calmly. I don't know why you want to find closure, to be honest. You've already broken up with him. Explaining every single detail associated with it is not going to make things better. Like, that's just going to hurt more. And if anything, it feels like you're rubbing salt in his old wounds. So in my opinion, just leave him alone and move on. I mean, this is what you wanted, right? You wanted to break up with him. And I can tell you from my perspective, I would be very upset and probably furious if my ex-girlfriend was saying, oh, we're breaking up, but don't worry, you're still a great guy. That will literally just make things worse. You're only going to add to this man's misery by doing that. That is not a good idea. Honestly, you got to play your move by breaking up with him, so he got to play his move, which meant he now is never going to talk to you ever again and has blocked you everywhere, basically going no contact. Maybe in some way this makes it feel like he got the last word, but in reality, you've already broken things off. There's nothing left to discuss. To go any further than that and to reach out to him again, in my opinion, would be clearly disrespecting his wishes. He doesn't want to talk to you and he doesn't want anything to do with you. So I really think it would be better for you to just move on and to find somebody else in your life, because clearly this relationship was not working. But hopefully everything works out for you, and hopefully you're able to find a relationship that brings you the happiness that you absolutely deserve. My parents blatantly favor my brother, and I am having a hard time dealing with it, and I'm not sure what to do. I'm a 23-year-old male, and I have quite a scenario which I don't exactly know how to deal with. Throughout my life, I have felt that my parents have heavily preferred my younger brother, who's about 3 years younger than me, over myself. Apart from various compliments on his looks, he has given most of what he asked for, something which I never felt I could do, let alone fulfill. They have been more lenient with him, even with regards to finances. Whenever he asked to borrow money or anything at all, 8 times out of 10 they would give in and give a little bit more than what he asked. I remember they let him make a purchase for an iPad one Christmas with money he had received from gifts, while I was not allowed to do the same thing. They had lent him money for a car, while I was refused any money to borrow from them just a few months prior. They gave him an allowance at the same time that I got one, despite him being 3 years younger than me. And to top it all off, when I got more money, he got more money as well, despite the age difference and the responsibilities. And these are just a few of the examples that I've put up with. On top of this, I had taken the decision to follow my father's footsteps and take on his same profession. Previously, he had tried to urge me to do the same, but once I really made the decision, he started to make things difficult for me. Yes, he let me on board and started giving me things to do, as I was still getting my university degree to work in the field. However, it took a long time for him to let me join. My brother, on the other hand, who has no interest in taking on the same profession, was easily allowed into helping around, despite doing it for just some extra cash. Now, I know what you're thinking. Things still may seem fair up to this point. However, this is what really infuriates me. When I started, my hours were severely limited, and I had to beg my father to increase hours, as I had just been refused another job, and he told me that he had no money to give me. Later, I got another job elsewhere outside of this field, despite not wanting anything else but this profession. When my brother asked for an increase in hours, when he had not even been there for a month, he was approved. All my brother needed to do was ask, despite me begging for months. When I confronted my dad about this, he said that it's my fault for not asking, despite the fact that there was plenty of evidence suggesting that I did ask him multiple times, if not outright begged him. My brother, on the other hand, never had to find another job until very recently, as he is starting to build up his own profession. He was paid very well from my father, since he was offered so much hours. I had been given the opportunity to help out as much as him when he was given the chance, but it was of course a few years too late. So because of that, my brother has earned thousands of dollars more than I have. And yes, I can get a job elsewhere and still remain in the profession, but my father tells me I won't be employed by anyone else, as they know who he is, and they will assume I will leave their wing to go back with my father. He does not want me to leave his side, but even he has to come offer me quite an unattractive pay for my services now, especially since I'm going to be starting full-time employment. I have absolutely no idea how to digest this, and I think that this has been extremely unfair. Whenever I try to talk it out with my parents, they tell me to not start a fight about things that I should stay quiet about, stating that I will probably earn more money than my brother in the future. I have even been told that I am mentally ill multiple times because I have expressed how unfair this has been to me, as I am quite a driven person and have gone to great lengths to get where I am today. And to be honest, it has not been easy. Is this favoritism towards my brother, or am I just being immature? I honestly feel that my parents don't care much about my life, especially when compared to my brothers, even though I've been the one to set the bar and have achieved more than they had when they themselves were my age. I sometimes think that they are jealous of what I am capable of doing, even academically. Leaving my father's wing and taking my profession elsewhere isn't much of an option, as employment will be hard for me, considering I live in a small country and everyone knows everyone here. My father's argument on being denied a job is quite true, to be honest, despite the great needs for professionals of my qualification. I have a very big desire to follow this profession, and I am extremely driven for it. I really do not want to abandon this path and start a completely new one just because of my family. I have honestly grown to hate my family quite deeply after all that has happened to me over the years. I cannot understand how they can live knowing I am not happy with what they have done to me, as I have tried to tell them multiple times. They just expect me to live with it when this is very crucial to me. I think that they are incompetent when it comes to dealing with people, and I am certain that they have a very low emotional intelligence. They have never or very rarely been there for me, and I don't see them as a support system at all. How am I to take this, and what should I do? I would really appreciate any help I could get, as I am in quite a rut and I haven't been feeling myself for quite a while. This is a worry that has lasted about 20 years. Every little preference given to another sibling of mine, when in contrast, I am rejected by my parents multiple times. It all feels like a stab to the chest. I have now grown into an adult and feel like I cannot keep this up much longer. I need to build my own life. What should I do? This is a really tough situation. I think the original poster already knows this, but your father is sabotaging your career. He is taking out some weird vendetta or jealousy, as you put it, for all the wrong reasons. When in reality, in my opinion, he should be raising you to eventually replace him at his job. I mean, why on earth is he acting like this? And to give special treatment to your brother and allow him to get more hours in a career that he's not even going to go into? That just doesn't make any sense. I can understand part-time work if you're going to college or something like that, or if you just needed a job when you're in between life events, but this guy is actively trying to slow down your career and giving your brother an advantage. They clearly see him as the favorite, and they're completely ignoring your hard work and efforts that have gotten you to this point. And you're right, you can achieve a lot more without your family. So in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, I would 100% take that job with another company. I would rather take my chances with somebody else and get a job at another company, despite the fact that your dad is also in this profession, to try and make a name for yourself there. Maybe there at least you would have the opportunity to get your teeth sunk into this profession, because right now it simply does not feel like your dad is willing to work with you, which is completely counterintuitive and so unfair. I also don't think this is something that has to be right away. I think if anything, you could just go with the flow and try and just tough it out with your dad for the time being, only to then use that job to get a better job. I've had to do that. It is very miserable, but you know what? It pays off in the end. So that is definitely an option. I think regardless, you sound like a very driven individual, and whatever you decide to do, I'm sure you're going to succeed, because you've worked very hard to get where you're at, and no one's going to stop your hard work and dedication to your profession. Not even your dad, who clearly favors your brother. My entitled sister demands that I waste $50,000 of my time from my job just so she can get free labor from me with her new up-and-coming business. And once I tell her no, she explodes on me in the worst way possible. Here's what happened. So I work as an accountant at a big firm, and my sister is a stay-at-home mom with 3 kids. I am 27 years old, I have no kids, and I make $135,000 a year in my salary. The way my job works is I get billed out to clients at a specific rate, and then my firm pays me my salary. Being an accountant, I get a pretty good view of all things business related. My entitled sister wants to start a business, which is fantastic. This business will provide some extra income for her, since supporting 3 kids on a single income can be very difficult. So things started to go wrong in February, where I was in the middle of our busy season. This was the time leading up to when all public audits are essentially due. It involves long 12 to 15 hour workdays for months at a time. My entitled sister decided to get her business plan up and running, but of course she needed some help. Because of my busy schedule, I told her that I would not be able to help her until May. But for my entitled sister, this was not a good enough answer for her. She wanted to get the funding for her business for April, so she could start setting up operations in May. She demanded that I work after work for free, building her a business plan, building out controls that I would eventually have to implement, as well as designing business processes, and then getting her the funding from the bank that she wanted for the business. I just shrugged this whole thing off and thought it was done when I said I can't do it. But everything started going really badly once she called my boss. She called my boss, who by the way is a very lovely but serious managing partner, and she actually asked him if I could be given some time off in the middle of the busy season to help her start her business. My boss's number is public on the firm's website, so that's how she got it and was able to call him, but this is simply not okay. My boss came to my office and told me what happened, and told me that if I wanted a vacation, I needed to give more of a notice, and that usually it wouldn't be approved at this time of the year. I was so confused because I didn't request any time off. I had no idea what he was talking about. He then explained to me that my sister had called in and that she had asked if I could have some time off so that I could help her with her business. And at this point, I was just fuming. She actually called my work and tried to interrupt what I do. I was taken so off guard, I didn't even know what to say. So I grabbed my phone and I called her up, and I told her to never try and call me off of work ever again, especially not in the middle of our busiest time of the year. After I told her this, she was super angry that I could not help her. So So instead, she went to my mom, who's a retired chartered accountant, so that she could help her instead of me. Now, something you should know about my mother is the fact that she is retired and doesn't want to work anymore. That is, unless you are planning on paying her properly for her time. And what she did before retirement is not cheap. Fast forward to Sunday and we're at a family dinner, and my entitled sister brings up the fact that nobody in the family is willing to help her get her business off the ground. My mom then mentioned that she couldn't afford her rate, in a way meaning she didn't want to work because she is retired, especially not for free. I told her that I couldn't take off 2 weeks of my life to get her whole business off the ground, as well as ready for operations in May. Not to mention the fact that this is the busy season for us. I would be able to do it part-time in the spring or summer for opening the next spring, but of course, she didn't like that answer. Simply put, anything but a yes, I will work for free wasn't gonna cut it for her. But I did give her an option, stating that I can sign her through my firm first thing Monday morning, but she would have to pay a $50,000 retainer fee just to get in. At this point, she explodes and leaves, and agreed to have me work on it for free in the spring and summer. I didn't say it was going to be free though, but it is going to be a very heavily discounted rate of $45 to $50 an hour, as opposed to my typical $650 an hour, which my firm charges to its clients. Hopefully though, she'll be okay with that when she hears it. That is so crazy that someone would expect you to work for free, especially since you already have a very high-paying job. Like, you clearly have a skill and you have a tool set that's very important for businesses, and your sister just wants a mooch off of it to try and get free labor. Like, that is simply irrational and just not fair for your skill set. You worked hard to get your job and you worked hard for your salary. And while I totally understand that this is your sister and obviously your family, but that does not mean you have to work for free. On top of that, I'm really surprised that you would even do this at all. If I was in your shoes, there's no way I would go into this without some kind of written contract, as well as being paid up front. Because in my opinion, based on what you've described, your entitled sister is probably going to be a nightmare to work for. It doesn't really sound like she knows what she's doing, and I really think she's gonna have you on a very short leash. But what would you do if you're in this situation? Would you help start up this business at a very discounted rate, or would you expect to be paid the amount that you should be paid? Leave a comment down below, we would love to see it. I made a bad joke to a friend of mine, and now 3 mutual friends have taken her side and stopped talking to me. And now I don't know what to do. For context, back in July, one of my good friends, who's 22 years old and is a female, hadn't responded to a text in a while, so I joked that I was, quote, praying for her downfall, which she thought was funny. So I have another friend, we'll call her Ivy, that's not her real name, who I had been friends with for about a year, and we had been talking pretty regularly while we both traveled over the summer. So same situation, Ivy didn't respond after a while, so I thought I'd make the same praying for her downfall joke and make her laugh. Well, it didn't make her laugh, and I guess she took it seriously, because she unfollowed me and blocked me on multiple platforms. The preying on someone's downfall thing is a common joke on TikTok and Twitter, which we all frequent, and is why I thought she would think it was funny. I have no issue admitting that it obviously wasn't funny to her, and therefore was not a good joke. All that matters is how she received it, not what my intentions were. But it really surprised me that she immediately jumped to cut me off, rather than giving me the benefit of the doubt or an opportunity to apologize. Despite her blocking me, I did try to reach out and apologize on Instagram. That is, before she blocked me there and received no response. Fast forward to now, and 3 of her friends, who I thought were also my friends, have essentially ghosted me. They stopped responding to text messages and unfollowed me on Instagram as well. This is even more hurtful than Ivy cutting me off, because I've known 2 of these girls for 2 years now. It's really hurtful to me that I've now lost 4 people as friends over a misunderstanding that I tried to make right. At this point, I don't know if I should leave it alone or attempt to text one of the mutual friends to tell them that I tried to apologize and I didn't mean the joke seriously, obviously. One of my other friends has said that if they've taken Ivy's side without hearing mine, then it means they were never really my friends to begin with, which to be honest, I kind of agree with. But it hurts to know there are people walking around thinking I would genuinely pray for someone's downfall. That's not the kind of person I am. I was obviously joking. Should I leave it alone, or should I try and reach out one last time to try and set the record straight? What should I do? In my opinion, when you lose friends over an obvious and innocent joke, those people were never your friends to begin with. They were just looking for reasons to abandon you, and guess what? You gave it to them. What a bunch of toxic individuals. They were clearly looking for reasons to get rid of you, and they found it and they're running with it. Even if they get to pretend to be offended. Which, by the way, how could anyone be offended by that? That joke is not even that good. It'd be different if it actually had some kind kind of sting to it or some shred of reality, but in reality, there's nothing there. And it sounds like these are the type of people that no matter what you do, nothing you do is going to be good enough with getting their forgiveness. Because I genuinely think they simply don't care. They probably just don't want you around. And that is definitely a hard truth to deal with, but it honestly looks like that is the case. And I'm so sorry you're going through that. So I would just let this go and move on and find some real friends, because these people were never friends to begin with, and they were clearly just toxic individuals that honestly you should be happy that you're finally away from. My best friend of 4 years said that once she gets into a relationship, she's going to drop me as a friend, and I really don't know how to react to this. I'm a 26-year-old male, and I have a best friend who is female. We'll call her Kay, that's not her real name. We've been really close for about 5 years now. I'm currently in a relationship with my fiance, who I have known for about 9 years, and she doesn't have a problem with Kay because she knows I've been helping Kay throughout her divorce and just being there for everything in her life because she doesn't have any friends besides me. Recently, Kay's been talking to a guy, and I'm glad she's getting out there in the dating world again, but she text messaged me out of the blue and said, "I think if I and this guy hit it off, I don't think that we could be friends anymore." And I'm just kind of stunned because I respect her as a person, and I thought we were so much closer than that. I understand she's putting boundaries out, but I feel like I was nothing to her after everything we've been through, to then pretty much just throw me away like I'm nothing. She puts a sad emoji after that, and I just leave her on red because I'm too stunned at what she just told me. I'm not sure how to go forward, and right now I don't even want to talk to her. I don't want to make some kind of argument over what she wants because I still respect her, and if that's what she wants, then okay, that's fine. But I'm not sure how to go forward with this. Even though I have a fiance, I would have never thought that she would just ditch me out of nowhere. I told my fiance about this, and she recommends that if Kay is so willing to drop me that easily, then I should do the same and drop her and delete her off of my social media platforms. I agree because the moment she said she was dropping me, I felt she had lost me as a friend. I don't even want to associate myself with her anymore, seeing now that I'm worth just being thrown away like that. Do I just stop talking to Kay? Should I take my fiance's advice or should I do something different? What should I do? It sounds like your friend Kay is a giant piece of garbage. She probably only kept you around because she got divorced and she was lonely and you gave her attention. Like she clearly did not value her friendship with you at all. Definitely not to the same level and degree that you did. And it's not like you guys were dating or flirting or doing anything nefarious. Your fiance was totally okay with your friendship. She knew that you were being supportive of her and that you were trying to be there for her in her time of need. So for her to just turn around and throw you to the curb like that is really gross. And honestly, it's not something you need in your life. If anything, you now know exactly what she's like, and you're seeing true colors quite clearly right now. So I think your fiance's right. I think it's time to disconnect yourself first and say, hey, I really appreciate the good times, but I will not be disrespected like that, and I think that it's better that we're just acquaintances instead of friends. Because in all actuality, this lady does not care about you, clearly. If she's so willing to throw away a friendship like that, even at just a casual level, all over some guy that she wants to date, then that is honestly the best red flag you could have possibly hoped for. My partner acts incredibly childish in public, and it's starting to really bother me, and I don't know what to do about it. I'm a 24-year-old female, and I've been with my boyfriend for about 2.5 years. Today, we are at a very busy and large restaurant with a few of his family members. There were at least 2 instances while at this restaurant that got me slightly annoyed. The first one was when he stood behind me on his way back to the table and shook my chair for about 30 seconds. At least 10 pairs of eyes around the restaurant were looking in our direction. I didn't say or do anything other than force a smile and wait until he stopped. I didn't want to say anything in front of his family members either. The second instance was when he would bang the side of his body against mine over and over again while we were sitting next to each other. And this wasn't in an innocent teasing type of way. It was as if he was a bored child and I was his parent. And this is just a portion of a day's example. He's done similar things in public when it's just the two of us. I just thought I was being too uptight or worrying about what people think, so I just let things slide. But today was a breaking point where I realized there should be boundaries in social settings. I grew up in a family where mannerisms in public are very important. My boyfriend is the type of person to not care what people think. He is one of 2 middle children with 2 younger siblings under the age of 13. He probably sees his siblings once every few months. I am comfortable with all of this in private, and I will join him in these harmless shenanigans most times. However, it's not great to see in public. He has mild depression and anxiety that he takes pills for, so I'm worried that if I do say something, it might really hurt his feelings. It feels like talking about this would be like confronting him about part of his personality, and I'm just not sure how to even approach that. What should I do? I think honestly, however you approach this, you definitely need to talk this out and come to some kind of compromise. Like, I totally understand where you're coming from too. It's probably very embarrassing to see your significant other acting like a child in public. I am personally a firm believer of the fact that there is a time and place for everything. If you're in private with your significant other, be goofy, be silly, who cares? It's just you two and it's just casual fun. But when you're in public, personally and in my opinion, I honestly just try to blend in and not make that big of a scene, especially if it's making somebody really important to me uncomfortable. For me, the last thing I would ever want to do is embarrass my girlfriend, my family, or my friends. And this is aside from some mutual joke or some kind of fun activity that we're doing. Like if I'm at a concert or at a theme park, I'm gonna have fun and I'm gonna be loud with my friends because the general consensus is at that specific social event, you can act like an idiot and it's kind of okay. But if I'm at a restaurant or if I'm in public generally and I'm starting to act really weird by shaking chairs and bumping into my significant other, especially when they're easily embarrassed by those types of things, I'm gonna avoid it. I'm not gonna do that to disrupt them. And it definitely seems like your boyfriend is not aware that he's crossing some serious social boundaries for you in public that you really try to maintain. Everybody's different, everybody has their own perceptions of how people see them, and some people simply don't care how they're perceived by others. And it sounds like your boyfriend is one of those people. But I think having a serious conversation about this really will go a long way in helping you feel comfortable being around him in public. There might just be a chance that he doesn't realize he's doing something that's bothering you. So if anything, you need to tell him outright, hey, this is bothering me and you need to stop doing this in public. It really makes me uncomfortable and I'm really embarrassed sometimes to be around you. And while that's a very straightforward way of saying that, I think something along those lines in a respectful manner will go a really long way for both of you. So hopefully this goes well, and hopefully your boyfriend is understanding of where you're coming from and how you feel. My wife had been texting her ex for 2 years, and she's mad that I'm not over it yet, and I really don't know what to do. First, some backstory. We've been married for 5 years and dated for 9 years before that. Together, we have 2 children. One's 4 years old and one is 2 years old. When it comes to the situation at hand, I've been lurking on some online forums for a while, and I think some of the stories made me paranoid about my own situation, especially when it comes to my spouse, and some of the horror stories that I've read. And so, while she was sleeping 4 days ago, I looked at her messages. And while I know what you're gonna say, this is a complete breach of trust, I ended up seeing a conversation that my wife was having with another man. We'll call this man Tim. That's not his real name. I looked at the recent messages, and the most recent one was him saying hi. A bit before that was a conversation of him asking if he could come over, but my wife said that she had work. There was also a conversation where my wife was sharing a picture of the outfit that she wore to go out that night. In the conversation, he complimented her, and then later in that conversation, asked if she had spent some intimate time with me, to which she told him no. I stopped reading at that point and was puzzled and felt guilty for looking. The next day, I couldn't stop wondering who Tim was. I don't personally know anyone by the name of Tim, and thought that it was weird that someone whose name I didn't even recognize was comfortable enough to try and invite themselves to my house. So with curiosity getting the better of me, I looked again later that night. I had convinced myself that if I looked at the start of the conversation, I might find out how they knew each other, and it would make me feel just a little bit better. Well, as you can probably guess, it didn't. It turns out the first messages were from when our second child was 2 months old, and that first conversation was hard. She was discussing our lack of intimacy and blaming me because I stay up later than her. She asked if he thought she was attractive, to which he responded that she was. He then started saying that she should come visit him, but that they would need to sleep in separate rooms, to which my wife responded that if she did go there, that things might escalate, if you know what I mean. After reading that, I felt sick to my stomach, and I just put the phone down. I didn't know what to do. I later decided that I needed to see the whole thing. I made some silly excuse for her phone, and she said that she'd give it to me later. Now, I'm a bad liar, and I felt guilty for looking. So 2 minutes later, I just went to her and told her what I saw, and then said I want to see the whole conversation. That's when she said that I can't look at those messages because she had deleted it and blocked him. She said that she had been meaning to do it, and it had nothing to do with me wanting her phone. We fought, and I yelled. She did apologize for talking about our life with her ex, but went on to say that she only spoke to him because he had reached out first, and that she just wanted a compliment to make herself feel better. She also stated that nothing happened between the two of them physically, and that she would never do that. She said that she only wants me, that she has no interest in him, and that in the messages, I didn't see he was often defending me when she was complaining about me. We ended that argument with me saying I still love her, but I need time to work out my feelings. Since then, I've put on a happy face for the kids, because if it weren't for them, I don't think I'd be under the same roof as her right now at all. We had one night of just not talking, one of sitting and watching TV together, and one where we argued again, and then I drank heavily. Now today, she is angry at me for not being done with this, and for being too up and down that she doesn't know where our relationship is. I am completely stuck and I don't know what to say or do. I love her, and if what she said is true, I can probably forgive her. But the fact I can't just read the messages where he's supposedly defending me or see that nothing else happened just keeps me stuck in the same situation. The way she's being now makes me feel like I'm the one causing problems. I don't want to break up my family because literally 2 months ago, we were talking about having a third child. Next weekend, we are staying in a hotel for 2 nights without the kids for an event. But now I don't know if I even want to spend time with her in this regard. We still have to go, but I'm worried that it's going to be a pivot point on where our relationship goes. This is all just so tough and I'm not sure what to do. Your wife had an emotional affair. She literally cheated on you in that way. So for her to say, oh, just get over it, is really, really gross in my opinion. She had been messaging this ex for 2 years. How are you supposed to just get over it all of a sudden after a few days? It's honestly not that simple. If I was in your shoes, I'd be just as hurt and devastated. And it's also super sketchy that she decided to delete the messages all of a sudden out of nowhere. Like, did she know you were going through her messages? Or did she finally, all at the same time as you looking at them, decide to get rid of them with the hope that she could just forget this ever happened? I mean, the timing of the events just really lines up with her probably knowing you were looking through them. And in case you're wondering, you are not at fault here. You have every right to be upset. Just imagine if the roles were reversed. If you were texting one of your exes, your wife would equally be as upset at you as you are at her. On the other side of that, I think there's also the possibility that, yeah, your wife was just looking for compliments from somebody else, and it just so happened to be an ex. But even that is super unhealthy. It sounds like you want to try and make this work, and I can completely understand that, especially since you both have kids together. So hopefully things work out for the best for both of you, and you're able to find some kind of common solution between the both of you, because this is not something that you should just forget about and push aside. And hopefully your wife is able to see that. An entitled Karen goes nuts at a local Walmart and tries to run out of the store after robbing me of my phone and headphones. Things got so bad that the police had to show up and take her down. Here's what happened. So my dad and I went to Walmart to go purchase school supplies for the upcoming year. And while organizing our stuff afterwards, I realized that the new backpack that I had just purchased was broken and that I couldn't use it. So we had to go back into Walmart just to try and get the return, which is already not going to be an ideal situation. So me and my dad walk up to the customer service desk to try and get a refund for the new backpack. And while we are in line, we see ahead of us the entitled Karen of this story. She was shouting at the top of her lungs about some headphones that had upset her to some poor employee. My dad knows how bad Walmart can be, so he just stands there and watches with glee. Meanwhile, I just put on my own headphones and watch some YouTube videos to pass the time. Standing next to this entitled Karen was some poor kid, just standing there wishing that his mom would stop acting like this. Only after the full encounter happened, I realized that she wanted some sort of headphones, but they were a very expensive product and Walmart was currently out of that specific type of headphone. And this entitled Karen was simply not having it, as she now begins to start throwing something at the employees. And it was at this point that my dad and I realized that this is about to get really bad really quickly. So we did the smart thing and started to walk away. The entire situation and where it was going was just not worth being a part of, so we thought an escape would be the best option. But unfortunately, we did not go unnoticed, as the Karen saw exactly where we were going. At this point, she turns around and dashes over to me and my dad while we have our backs turned. She even left her child at the customer service desk just to chase after us. I now realize that this entitled Karen had taken notice of the headphones that I was currently wearing, and that has to be now what she was chasing after, because this lady runs over and instead of trying to ask me a question about my headphones or anything along those lines, she instead grabs my headphones off my head and in turn my phone. She rips my phone and my headphones off of my person, and my dad just looks on in shock. The entitled Karen then makes a break for it, and at this point, 3 Walmart employees are behind her trying to chase her down. down. My dad then takes off and starts chasing after her as well. I was just in complete shock watching this all go down. The next thing I hear is a lot of swear words and a lot of screaming. When I come onto the scene, I see that one of the security guards and one of the male employees had tackled her to the ground, and now she is screaming at the top of her lungs. One of the female employees then goes up to my dad and asked him if these are my headphones. The headphones in question were so mangled that it was hardly recognizable as headphones in the first place. The only way that you could even identify it as headphones was the connection thing you put into your phone. Luckily, she gives me my phone and it only has minimal damage on it. After that altercation, we decided that we wanted to leave and get out of Walmart, but unfortunately, we were key witnesses to something pretty major in the store, so we had to wait and make some kind of statement. The cops eventually show up, and everybody that was hurt by that lady in some kind of way wanted to press charges. And at this point, this entitled Karen doesn't scream or say anything, but instead she just starts spitting on people. So they put some handcuffs on her and put a mask over her face to prevent her from spitting on anybody else. The cops take some statements, and this entitled Karen got charged with theft, disturbing the peace, and destruction of property. At the end of the day, I only got about $30 back to try and pay for the headphones. Needless to say, I don't think I will be going back into Walmart for anything anytime soon. Some people are just absolutely unhinged. Imagine going into Walmart and throwing things around just because the employees as well as the store don't have the headphones that you're looking for. I mean, how crazy can you get? You could literally buy those headphones online and actually get a quality product for once instead of whatever Walmart would have given you. So hopefully if you ever do go back to Walmart, you never have to deal with that entitled Karen ever again. My boyfriend hasn't rejoined the workforce since the pandemic hit, and he is really resistant to going back despite my friendly encouragement, and I honestly don't know what to do. Let me start off by saying that I love my boyfriend so much, but when it comes to this subject, he is really hard to talk to. He gets irrationally defensive and negative. He thinks he can support himself through DoorDash, but has been completely unsuccessful. In the past year, he hardly made rent on time. When I calmly mentioned this to him, he would say things like, "That's not even true. How could you even say something like that?" To further drive the point home, I would show him our transaction history, which showed that he had only made rent 3 times, with me covering him the other 9 times. But then, even with that in mind, he would then double back and say, "Look, I made it 3 times. You can't say that I didn't get it once." But he just completely misses the point and doesn't see objective reality. Now, my once robust savings account is at $0. I found that our local Apple Genius bar is hiring and thought that this was something he could really be great at. But when I showed it to him, he started ranting about how he didn't see himself there. I have had 3 pretty boring jobs since COVID just to pay our bills. I didn't see myself in them, but the roof needs to be held up. I did what had to be done. Now, my boyfriend knows, and he has said that his defensiveness is irrational, but for him, it's a bad habit, as well as what he would describe as a trauma response. But that acknowledgement does not really help me. This is something that he would do to his mom, and I honestly find it very unappealing, even though I love him very much. I feel like he needs male encouragement, but his father is an absentee in his life. His best friend is a doctor and loves him a lot, and I just know that if I gave him even the slightest clue into how things have been going, he would be mortified and talk to my boyfriend about it seriously. I am sick of bearing the weight of his struggle by myself. I feel like he needs help, and I don't know where to bring it in from. In the meantime, I have to stop buying groceries before I've received an advance payment, and I may even let the Wi-Fi get shut off. I have given him thousands of dollars worth of support, and I'm just fed up. He is a good person, but has a very childlike mental block about all of this, and it scares me. At this rate, he is going nowhere very fast. What should I do? The behavior from this boyfriend is really inappropriate. I completely understand how COVID threw a wrench in everybody's plans in life. It certainly derailed my plans and made things a lot harder, but staying at home and refusing to work is not the answer. If you don't work, your power's gonna go out. You're not gonna be able to pay for water, and you won't have any internet. And pretty soon you won't have any food. Like, you have to work. And it sounds like the boyfriend in this situation is 100% just using his girlfriend. He is not putting in the time or the effort to take care of himself or his house. And that is not fair for this original poster. I'm honestly surprised she has even stayed with him. He has drained her bank account completely. And the original poster has it right. Sometimes you just have to work at a job that you hate just so you can make ends meet in your life. There's nothing wrong with that, even if it's a job that you don't identify with. Most people don't identify with their jobs at all. all, and they see it just as a means to an end, which is fine. But choosing to not work and putting this much stress on your significant other is completely unfair. Regardless of what you choose to do, I think you definitely need to have a conversation with him, because at this rate, you're going to be broke and you're not going to be able to make rent either. Yes, you've made it 9 times in the past, but if this behavior continues, you're not going to have any money to work with. In my opinion, he either needs to pull his weight or it might be time for you to live somewhere else. Otherwise, this will only get worse over time. Today, I messed up by telling my professor to call me daddy, and boy was that a mistake. So tomorrow morning is my first day of a new math class, and the professor had emailed out an introduction form. It asked things like, what's your favorite song and what should I call you? Well, I had been smoking a little bit, if you know what I mean, and for my own personal amusement, I put the word father down in the latter box. After struggling through the math, which is not the easiest thing to do from the clouds, if you know what I mean, I put down my favorite song and I sent it in. And I didn't have the oh no I messed up moment until a few minutes later. I went back to my emails to try and redo the form, and not only did I find that I couldn't redo the form, I found that the professor was not a guy like I thought. Instead, she was a middle-aged woman. And it was right about this time that I realized what I did, and the negative connotation that this name is going to be geared towards my female professor. You see, up to this point, I had been imagining the title of a Catholic priest. However, I can't imagine that a middle-aged woman is going to take a 19-year-old dude telling her to call him father as a religious reference. And the best part, we're all getting an introduction at the beginning of the class, based on our quiz answers, of course. So I'm aware that I am completely screwed. However, my high brain is telling me that perhaps I'm not completely screwed. I just gotta figure out how to play it off with a Catholic priest joke or something like that. If you were in my shoes and you made this kind of mess up, what would you do to try and rectify the situation? Because honestly, I'm at a loss, and I'm not sure what to do. Talk about making a really weird first impression. If I was a professor and I asked people to tell me what they want me to call them throughout the school year, and someone said, call me father or daddy, I think I would slowly implode from laughter. And you better believe I would call that student daddy for the rest of the semester. I would not let them live that down. That's hilarious. But there is a chance that you've definitely shot yourself in the foot for the rest of the school year. What if this lady does not have a sense of humor? What if she takes this the wrong way and you're immediately in deep water? There's a lot to unpack here. But there's also a possibility where she just doesn't read it and she starts her class like normal and just doesn't even mention it. I personally really doubt that she's going to stand in front of the class and be like, oh, Steven? Yeah, you mean father? This guy asked me to call him father for the school year, so let's do that. I seriously doubt she's going to embarrass you like that. If anything, it's just going to be a normal class like anything, and it's going to be fine. Hopefully, though, this lady does have a sense of humor, and if anything, you could just email her and be like, hey, I wrote down the word father as a joke, and I'm really sorry about that. I was meaning to change it, but I sent it in before I could. And that might literally be the answer to your problems. It's really as simple as that. So hopefully this all works out for you, and hopefully your professor doesn't take it the wrong way. Because chances are she's probably not even going to read it. She's got enough students to deal with, so I seriously doubt she's even going to notice. My boyfriend keeps pretending like I don't exist when I'm talking to him, and it's making me feel less human, and I'm starting to really get bothered by it, and I don't know what to do. First, some background. I recently moved in with my boyfriend of 4 years, as I have just finished my education, and I will start working as a teacher very soon. He is in work at the moment, while I'm in a gap between finishing my teaching training and starting work after the summer holidays. I will start in less than 2 weeks, so I haven't been out of work and my education for that long. I help during the day with prepping meals for dinner, as well as cleaning up, and I'm also doing reading for teaching, as it's not my subject of expertise that I will be teaching. It's law, so it takes a lot of my time and effort, but I do put a lot of love into our meals that I cook, and I try to learn whole new cuisines and seek out special ingredients to make authentic meals for the both of us. My love language is acts of service. In other words, I'm not a bum, and I contribute financially with groceries, as well as the cost of going out to eat where possible, as well as splitting the rent and the bills equally. I will be earning more than him when I start my job, so I will be contributing more once that happens. We have lived together for short periods of times previously, during lockdowns or even splitting time in between each other's places, but this issue only started when I moved in 2 months ago. The last 4 years have been relatively good. I was a bit distant after my younger brother passed away during my teaching training last year, but all things considered, I pulled myself out of that hole and am back to being how things were before. But here's the issue that just keeps coming up. He has started doing this thing where he gets home from work and just doesn't acknowledge me when I ask him for help or speak to him about something like my day. These are things that you would typically expect a response to. For example, I'm pretty sure compared compared to him, and I can't close the vertical window in the flat because the handle is too high up and I'm not strong enough. He will pretend that he can't hear me even when I'm asking him to help me, and despite that it's getting cold in our flat. Sometimes I will be cooking something and need a hand moving stuff off of the table to put it down so I don't burn myself. But he takes so long to respond to me after me asking him multiple times that I either end up overcooking the food or getting close to burning myself doing things one-handed. Sometimes I will just be talking about something that happened or how I feel about some family issues, and there's just no response. This has bitten him in the backside too, as I had tickets to my undergraduate graduation and he didn't take time off because apparently he didn't hear me talking about having them at the time. He got moody with me over this, but this behavior is incessant. He does it all the time when he's on his phone or playing video games. I game too, but I always respond when he is speaking. I have told him many times in the past about how degrading I find it and how I don't feel heard and how I don't feel comfortable, as well as basically given up on talking to him about anything serious. I'm at a point where I don't even feel like I can talk to him about my brother passing away because he refuses to listen to everything else. He's perfectly fine at hearing me when we talk about things that he enjoys, but is completely absent when it comes to me. He has now gotten to the point where he just takes his meals that I make him over to his desk to continue to play his video games. He would just put on his headphones and ignore me sometimes after I've put 2+ hours of effort into our meal. He doesn't seem to understand that this is really rude, but I'm telling him it is, so it really shouldn't still be an issue, right? Plus, this behavior is always accompanied by him having no patience when I accidentally do something like drop something or even close the cupboard door a little too loudly. He would raise his voice at me anytime this happens. It makes me feel like I'm a kid getting yelled at by my mother again, but at the same time, I feel like a mother nagging a child to please help me out because it takes so much to get him to even acknowledge that I exist. Why does he feel it's okay to do this when I have to put up a fight with his behavior as soon as it appeared, and I haven't let it slide? Whenever I feel really low from it, yes, I cry from frustration, and he just tells me off for being too loud and for shouting when it's not actually that loud. He has previously been really good to me, which helped me feel okay about moving in. Like I really felt like he was gonna be there for me when my brother passed away. No one but my boyfriend really understood what I was going through, as he was with me when I found out, which is why I'm so lost why this behavior has started now. I feel like I've been conned almost as I expected the niceness to continue. I mean, like, why now? Most guys apparently leave when something like this happens to their partner, according to the grief counselor that I'm seeing. I'm not a weight on his life. I still have fun. I have taken on things that he enjoys like gaming. I'm listening to the music that he likes. I'm attentive. I listen to him talk about his day and help him with his issues. I cook. I put effort into how I present myself. So I honestly overall don't get it. After multiple Google searches out of just pure frustration, suggested that he might have ADHD, but that's the thing. He doesn't have ADHD. If he did, he would have been diagnosed by now. I just don't know what to do, and I don't have many people to talk to about this. I have been actively trying to find friends in the area, so I don't feel alone, but it's hard. And with all things considered, I honestly don't know what to do. This is really disturbing behavior because your boyfriend is being very neglectful. Like he is not in any way, shape, or form appreciating all the hard work you put into this relationship. And in a lot of ways, it definitely feels like this is a one-sided situation. Like he's more than happy to talk about his day as well as to eat the food that you cook, but when the roles are reversed, he just does not reciprocate at all. He doesn't listen to you at all. He completely ignores you when you need help with something, and he's just overall being very toxic. So it really is heartbreaking to hear that you feel like you've been conned in this relationship. When it comes to me personally trying to figure somebody out, when someone tells me exactly who they are, whether by their words or actions, I'm gonna take the stance of believing them and taking it at face value. That is until something proves it otherwise. And at face value, your boyfriend does not care about you. He is not attentive. He doesn't want to listen to you. He completely ignores you and is very ungrateful for everything you're doing. And if anything, he's pushing you aside. And that is not fair for you. I think having a very serious discussion with him and telling him flat out as to why you don't feel welcome in this house anymore would do you a lot of good. Because if your boyfriend isn't willing to be your boyfriend, then he's just some weird roommate who takes advantage of you. And in all actuality, you do not deserve that. So hopefully this conversation goes well, and hopefully you're able to figure this out, because the way your boyfriend is acting is unacceptable, and no one should have to deal with that. My girlfriend won't let me break up with her, and I don't know what to do about this. My girlfriend and I have been dating for over a year, and up until about 2 months ago, we had a pretty basic relationship. relationship. We had movie dates, prom night, stuff like that. She said that we would get married at some point and have a Disney movie-like relationship. Pretty much the week of graduation, she started to act different. She would start to do stuff like getting mad at me when I hung out with my friends, or if I didn't invite her to stuff, she would freak out. This summer, she hasn't been letting me do anything without her, but she won't let us do anything I want to do. I figured she was nervous about college in the fall, thinking that maybe she thought that we wouldn't have time to be with each other or something like that. She and my best friend really don't get along as well, and 2 weeks ago, she was yelling at him and started throwing things at him. After that altercation, I got really mad, and a couple of days ago, I texted her and I said that we needed to break up. But the worst part about all of this is that she won't let me break up with her. She keeps denying that I ever texted her that, and she keeps asking if I want to go out with her sometime. She has even shown up at my house to ask me out, which is honestly just so weird. She also blames my friend for some reason and is claiming that he's the one who made me break up with her in the first place. I have blocked her on everything, but she's still showing up at my house and has even started texting my friends and my parents. Now things are really weird. How can I get her to stop, as well as to convince her that we aren't together anymore? What should I do? This definitely is a very weird situation. Imagine making the hard decision to say, you know what, we're not good for each other and I'm breaking up with you, only for them to turn around and be like, no, we are not breaking up. We're still together. Let's go out. Like, come on, that's just freaking weird. And worst of all, this lady is literally showing up to your house and trying to act like you guys are still together. Like, no, that's not how this works. This would be like if you quit your job and your manager came to your house and was like, whoa, why weren't you at work today? Like, are you kidding me? I quit my job. Please leave. Your girlfriend has crossed the line, is not respecting your wishes, and has started to become a stalker. I think the next time she shows up at your house, one quick phone call to the police will sort this out really quickly. The way she's acting is inappropriate, and it's not something you should ever have to deal with. If she tries to interact with you, do not engage. It's literally not worth it. And you should tell your friends as well as your family to do the exact same thing. This lady sounds crazy, and you do not need that in your life, especially since you're just about to go to college. Like, come on. So best of luck with that, and hopefully you're able to get away from this crazy ex, because this lady is clearly unhinged, and the further you get away from her, the happier you will be. My entitled father kicks me out of the house the second I turn 18 and destroys all of my childhood possessions. And I honestly could not be more upset. Here's what happened. So I'm the youngest of 6 kids. My parents always made it clear that when I turn 18, you're out of the house. Whether you're off to university, moving, or just homeless. They don't care where you're going, but you are out of their house. They did this to all of my siblings, and what do you know? None of them want a relationship with them. I was 16 when I was the last one, so it was just me and them. Since 5 children from the ages of 54 to 18 didn't want any relationship with the parents, they tried a little harder on me. By that, I mean I was allowed to eat 3 meals a day if I wanted to, but I had to do the meal planning, as well as the shopping and the cooking. My dad ate oatmeal in the morning and granola at night, and my mother ate 1 meal a day at 8 o'clock in the evening and only made food for herself. I was able to get new shoes once a year instead of waiting till my toes and heels were showing. Just little things like that, which were much different than my siblings. But I guess old habits die hard, because when I turned 18 and went off to university, they couldn't get my stuff out of there fast enough. They basically tried to push me to take every single possession and shove it into a dorm room. Not just clothing or books, but my actual futon bed. And yes, as a side note, I didn't get a real bed until I went to university. They also pushed my photos on me, as well as anything and everything they could find that was labeled as mine. Of course, that wasn't going to work, and I told them so. They said, okay, box it all up. So I did, and I put it in their storage unit. Within 1 month, they had taken down the walls of my bedroom to make their living room a massive space. So on holidays, I could choose to sleep on one couch where my dad would wake me up at 4 in the morning, or I could beg a friend for a place to crash. I spent most of my free time at my friend's house because of this. I just felt they hated me being there, and I really did not feel welcome. Finally, I graduated, and my parents split up. I helped them move out, and my boxes were moved to my dad's house. When my grandparents passed, last. He basically stole all of their money. None of the grandkids got a dime or a single memento, which I know for a fact my grandparents would not have been happy about. And in the end, my dad got $4 to $5 million. So he bought a flashy car and a giant house. At this point, I had 8 small boxes of stuff. It took up no space at all in his place. We're talking tiny, tiny boxes. But one day, he sent me a text message and asked me if I want anything from my boxes. I've recently moved to the other side of the country, and he had years to approach this subject, but never brought it up. But instead of talking about this sooner, he waited until I was 1,000 miles away, after I just helped him move, to then ask if I could get rid of any of my boxes. I asked him to just pop them open, and we'll FaceTime and spend 20 minutes talking about it. So we get that started, and to my absolute shock, none of the things that I wanted were available for me to get. I'm talking baby photos, personal items, clothing. Nothing that I asked for was available in these boxes. He straight up tells me that I wouldn't even want any of that stuff, since a lot of it was over a decade old, and that he put it on the curb for the garbage men to take care of. These were all incredibly sentimental items in my life. We're talking baby photos all the way up until I was a teenager. There were letters from my grandparents and Christmas presents from my grandfather. There were special items, very sentimental things that were just taken away from me. And worst of all, he obviously tossed all of this before asking me if I wanted it. He only asked me if I wanted these items as a formality, because he felt guilty that he had already done it and expected that I would say that I didn't want it. He hates possessions. He has absolutely nothing in his house but a desk, a futon, a bookshelf, a computer, and a camera. I feel so stupid thinking that I could trust this man with any of my stuff after he said that when I moved, he would take care of it. And now I wish I could go back and make room in my moving van for when I moved 1,000 miles away from my father. This is a lesson I've learned the hard way, but never again will I trust that man with anything that is valuable to me. The parents in this story are so unbelievably toxic. Like, they treated their kids like garbage all the way up until they were 18 years old. And even then, they treated them like absolute strangers in their own household. Like, if you hate kids that much, why have 6 of them? Like, that's so ridiculous. Just do yourself and everybody else a favor and don't have any if you feel that way. I mean, you would probably pick up really quickly after the first one if you even wanted to have 5 more. And it's really terrible that the original poster lost all this sentimental stuff to this terrible father. That man is a very toxic individual, and I can see why he got divorced, as well as why nobody wants anything to do with him. He is clearly a miserable human being with millions of dollars. And I think that's just added proof that money really doesn't buy happiness. So while it really is terrible that the original poster lost all of their family photos and everything personal to them, they can at least say that they have officially moved on from this terrible father, because that man just straight up sucked. And hopefully he never has to deal with that guy ever again. My boyfriend has a crush on a coworker, and it's really making me doubt myself, and I'm not sure what to do. So my boyfriend of around 5 years recently revealed to me that he has a crush on his coworker. They both work in the same store and have many similar interests. I am not sure how old she is, probably in her early 20s, and they have worked together for about a year. Nothing physical or romantic has happened, and she likely doesn't even know about these feelings. At first, I was just grateful that he told me, since I definitely suspected there might be some feelings there. He brought it up casually, and we both laughed about it. I was glad we were open about that sort of thing, as everyone does have crushes, even in relationships. And I thought that being open about it was a great way to address these feelings. He said that it would be very difficult to try and shake these feelings, but he is just acting normal around her for now. He mentioned he develops crushes on women very easily, and then finds it very difficult to just pursue a normal friendship. We talked about it a bit more the next day, and since then, I've been really having a hard time emotionally. In the past, when we've talked casually about an open relationship, he has been very opposed to it, and I've agreed that it's not for us. Recently, though, he seemed a lot more open to the idea, mentioning that we have different interests, and hinting that it could be a possibility with the two of us sticking together and figuring it all out together. This talk made me suddenly and extremely self-conscious. It has been hard to relax around him. All I can think about is how the other women he sees are probably prettier. They are always on since they are working together and don't have the same issues that I do. I have discussed marriage and kids with this man, overlooking our differences and interests because he is kind and we love each other a lot. But now I am full of doubt. How could he have such strong feelings for someone and pivot so easily and quickly to an open relationship if he saw me as someone he would want to be with forever? If he develops these feelings so quickly and strongly for every woman he meets, what would our future look like together? I have been feeling him pull away over time time, and though I'm sure he does not want to break up, I'm at a loss for how to handle this crush, these insecurities, and these doubts. I have been with this man for 5 years. We have 2 pets together, we share a living space, and our lives are intertwined in almost every single way. What should I do? This is a messy one, because it's really just not fair for you. Sure, you can develop a crush on a coworker, but if you're a loyal boyfriend, you'll be like, wait a second, no thank you. I'm already with somebody. Like, it does not take that much energy to flip off that switch and say, actually, no, I'm off the market. This guy is very clearly entertaining the thought of getting with this other woman, so he's trying to propose some kind of open relationship, which in my opinion is just cheating with extra steps. He's trying to be like, oh, let's have an open relationship. It's fine, right? No, in my opinion, it's not fine. You have clearly said that you do not want that, and that's not in your best interest. So for him to propose something like that is a big red flag for me personally. And it really sucks because it's all at your expense. Like, what kind of boyfriend would act like that? And don't get me wrong, when you're in a relationship, you can acknowledge how pretty someone actually is, and you can just leave it at that. But in my opinion, to go any further than that and to entertain the idea of, hey, maybe I could get with this person as well, is incredibly toxic and is completely counterintuitive to you having a healthy relationship. So in my opinion, this is definitely a discussion you need to have with him. You need to make your feelings very known very quickly, because it sounds like he's entertaining some ulterior motives. And if you're not careful, this relationship could really see some serious friction. My online date basically tried to use me for career advice for a job interview at my company, and I couldn't be more upset. So I matched with my date on Bumble, and the chat was really good. She saw on my profile that I'm a game developer, and she said that was cool, nothing really else about it, and she seemed interested in meeting up. When we met at the station, she looked genuinely terrified as I approached her. So I didn't really go in for a hug because I didn't feel welcome to do that. I asked her if she was okay, and she said she just has anxiety. I was half expecting us to just show up and have some drinks and have a good time, but she explained that she had just come from work and she was starving. She then said that she fancies Asian cuisine, so I said, sure, why not? She chose a restaurant, we sat down, and then she started to give me a sob story about how she had to drive ages to her local station just to get a long train to get here. And I have to be honest, after she told me that, I felt really bad for her and also super awkward. So to try and help out the situation, I offered to pay for her dinner. I offered and she gladly accepted, and I didn't mind. So I was trying to get to know her, but she kept shutting me down, saying that she didn't like talking about herself and that she would rather ask me some questions. I just thought to myself, okay, we can do that. So she started asking me some questions, and all of the questions that she wanted to ask had to do with the company that I worked for. I politely chuckled, reminding her that I have NDAs and that I can't answer any questions. She then suddenly revealed that she had a job interview lined up next week and was asking me what they would be looking for with a new hire. I was as polite as I possibly could be, and I could not believe that I was in this kind of situation. But I told her that it's not my department that she's going for, so I can't really give her advice. She then continued to press me about what I'm working on, to which I reminded her, I can't tell you. I paid for dinner reluctantly, walked her over to the station, and then she told me that she was having some wisdom teeth removed soon, so she won't be on her phone, which is the most original way of saying that she's never going to call me again. I then walked home and felt annoyed, so I sent her a message saying something to the effect of, it was nice to meet you, but on reflection, I don't think we are looking for the same thing. I'm on dating apps because I want to meet someone in hopes of blossoming into a relationship, but it felt like you were just looking for career advice as well as insider information and had absolutely no interest in getting to know me. You completely discouraged my efforts to get to know you as well. My best advice for you is to maybe ask for advice from people on LinkedIn and not get guys to take you out on dates just so they can try and get you a job. It's super inappropriate. She then responds back and says, I have anxiety and I found your message very hurtful. I've tried LinkedIn, but nobody ever replies. Sorry you feel that way. And I could not believe how entitled she was acting. Personally, I don't want to mess up her chances of a career at my job, but part of me really wants to speak to the recruitment department and let them know about this incident. What should I do? In my opinion, if I was in your shoes and someone had just played me to try and get a free meal and also tried to make me break some contractual agreements not to say what I'm working on, I absolutely would go to the recruitment department. That's so unprofessional, and I would not want to work with someone like that. And I personally find it hilarious that this person basically said, oh, my wisdom teeth are going to be removed. I can't talk on the phone. That's coded message for, I didn't get what I want, so I'm never going to talk to you again. Can you imagine having that as a coworker, even if it's in another department? How obnoxious would that be? I mean, she legitimately rolled up to this date and said, okay, break your contracts. Let's disregard some of those NDAs that you signed. If you don't know, an NDA stands for non-disclosure agreement. And when you sign one of those, basically you can't say anything. It is a big deal to break an NDA, so you have to take those very seriously. And this guy could have easily lost his job if he started to spill the beans to this lady he's never met before about the things he's working on as a game developer. So yeah, I would tell the recruitment department like tomorrow. There's no way I would let that slide, and honestly, that's just super unprofessional. Today, I messed up by inviting my fiance's grandma to our wedding, and boy did it not go well. So I'm getting married in 2 weeks, and I tried to do this as a surprise. I met my girlfriend when we were in college, around 4 years ago. She went to college out of state, so I never got to know her family much. When we did talk, she only ever talked about her parents. She never mentioned any grandparents, aunts, cousins, anyone. I only saw them through old photos and stories. A week later, we had finished the guest list. My girlfriend's family on the list was her parents and a few cousins. I asked if she was sure that this was all the people she wanted to invite, and she shut down the topic and said yes, absolutely. I know that she isn't very close to her extended family. That night, I went on social media and found an old picture of my girlfriend with her grandfather. I know they both loved each other very much, but he passed away a few years ago. I also found her grandma's social media page, and she was someone that she hadn't really mentioned before at all, but she didn't talk about her grandfather a lot because his death was always very upsetting for her. So I thought that this was probably why she didn't invite her to our wedding. She also has very bad social anxiety and would feel guilty over inviting someone she hasn't seen in a while halfway across the country. So I took it upon myself and I invited her grandma. She seemed very surprised but happy. My girlfriend didn't know anything about this until yesterday when her grandma knocked on our door. I had no idea she was going to be arriving, so my girlfriend answered the door and I followed quickly after her. My girlfriend's grandmother hugged her and began rambling about second chances and wanting to help with the wedding. My girlfriend hugged her back and asked how she was related to her. I thought it was an awkward joke and jokingly asked if she didn't recognize her own grandmother. My girlfriend then immediately pushed the woman off of her and pulled me away to talk to me. It turns out she never met her grandmother. I come to find out that my girlfriend's grandmother had a very bad relationship with my girlfriend's mom and didn't want to be involved in any of my girlfriend's sister's lives while only wanting to stay in my girlfriend's life. It's really crazy stuff. In fact, my girlfriend's family went no contact with this lady when she was only a few months old. When I spoke to her grandmother, she didn't allude to any of this over the text message. In fact, she told me how sad it was having no one around after her husband passed away. She stated that it was hard for her to travel at such an old age. Looking back now, it's now easy to see that she picked up pretty quickly that I didn't know anything and that she used me to get back in my girlfriend's life. I feel so horrible about this, and my girlfriend isn't even talking to me anymore, which I completely understand. But my girlfriend does have a lot of family trauma, and we've had issues in the past of her breaking down at family gatherings. It is a very bad cycle, and she refuses to talk to me about any of it. I really want to support her and help her heal, but she won't even give me the chance. I know that I messed up big time by inviting her grandmother, but I really just want to make things right. What should I do? That is a major mess up. Like, that's horrible. You overstepped the line big time. For me personally, there are family members of mine that I would never invite to my future wedding. There's just no way they're gonna be there. So if my fiance decided, oh, let me invite this one relative that's super toxic to our wedding, I would be unbelievably upset. So when it comes to inviting people to your wedding, you definitely gotta keep things to your side of the family, because there's so many details you simply won't know about your significant other's extended family. Because the last thing you want is for some weird grandmother to roll up at your front door thinking that she's gonna be given some second chance to help plan this wedding. So hopefully things get worked out pretty quickly, because this is definitely a big mess up, and you better hope she doesn't cancel the wedding. My siblings accuse me of being selfish because I didn't want to watch their children on vacation. So my parents paid for a great vacation house in Florida for all of us and my aunt. The only person who's been on vacation in years is my oldest sister-in-law, who went to Florida 2 weeks ago alone. Despite the fact that it was the week of my grandfather's funeral, she went to Florida instead of attending the funeral. They have 4 children, and I had 3 out of the 4 in my care for half the week she was gone. Anytime we've gone to Florida as a family, I always end up watching their kids. My middle brother and his wife have also had to watch these kids before they had a kid of their own. But here's the issue that really comes into play here. The layout of the house that we would be staying at basically basically has it where there's 3 bedrooms on the first floor, and the second floor has 2 bedrooms, which includes a giant kids room for the older kids, where there's bunk beds and an arcade area. Lastly, the third floor is a suite room with a kitchenette. I have the 2 youngest kids, 3 kids in total. The 2 youngest are babies. And to top it all off, I also have pulmonary hyperextension and heart failure. So taking steps up and down these stairs really take a toll on my body. Now with all of that in mind, here's where the argument came into play. Last night, everyone informs me I have to stay on the floor with all my kids and all of their children, and I was absolutely not having it. It is dangerous for me, and regardless of the stated expectation, it will result in me being a live-in babysitter because myself and my husband are the only adults on that floor. My sister-in-law then asked me in front of her kids, "What is it that you don't like about my kids? Is that why you don't want that floor?" At this point, I get super upset, especially since her children are standing right there. Her comment was just meant to gaslight me and to try and manipulate me. So I get upset and my husband and I just leave. Later, I sent them a text message and I said that they don't get to decide my room. And again, they tried to imply that I don't like their kids or something along those lines. Eventually, both of my sister-in-laws jump in, call me and my husband, basically claiming that we are spoiled, unappreciative babies who are ruining the trip and hurting my mom's feelings. So after that, I snapped. I said to them, "I am done with you guys. None of you wanted that floor because you wanted to dump your kids on me without my consent, and that is absolute garbage, and I literally want nothing to do with you guys." They have done this to me historically multiple times. The implication that I am somehow a horrible human being because I don't enjoy being told where I have to go and what rooms I get to pick, as well as putting me at a disadvantage both physically and emotionally, as well as just using me for a babysitter. And then to have the audacity to imply that I don't love my nieces and nephews in front of them is absolutely crazy to me. Ultimately, my middle brother and his wife said that they would stay on that floor, but commented it was a sacrifice since I was being so immature. But after hearing that, I called their bluff and said, well, if it's no big deal and I'm overreacting, then why is it a sacrifice? Eventually, I just blocked them. I don't know how to fix the situation, and I don't know if I'm willing to. What should I do? With the health conditions that you're dealing with, you should absolutely not have to be somebody's babysitter, all because they want you to and they're trying to force you to. And what that lady was doing was literally manipulation. You got it right. She was trying to imply that you hated her kids, and that's why you didn't want to watch them. And the fact that she did that in front of her kids was just really gross. I mean, what a terrible human being. Good for you for standing up for yourself and putting your foot down, because otherwise these people were just going to keep using you. And this is also a good indicator that next time, if you go on a vacation with them, book your own hotel. These people are just going to try and pawn their kids off on you every single time because they see you as a free babysitter. But hopefully now, after you put your foot down, they will leave you alone and allow you to enjoy your vacation, because nobody should be forced to babysit anybody's kids if they don't want to. My entitled parents make excuses and allow my little brother to constantly steal from me all the time. And when I confronted them about this, they always made excuses for his behavior and ended up yelling at me for everything that my brother was doing. Eventually, my aunt got involved and helped me out in this situation and put her foot down and said enough is enough. Here's what happened. Back when I was still a kid, it was very hard for anything to be exclusively mine. And as my brother got older, he craved money for things above all else. He and I both got allowances. In fact, we got equal allowances. So that was sort of fair. I say sorta because he didn't have to do chores for his, while I did. But that's in the past now because my brother is now having to do all those chores for nothing. My brother always wanted more money though, whether he spent it or not. He loved having new things, but sometimes he just saved the money instead, which is odd because you'd think him the kind of kid who'd splurge his saving on the first thing he wants. My brother and I both got allowances of about $25 a month, and I was pretty thankful for it. I usually saved most of my money though, but my brother always wanted more. One day as a teenager, I came home to find my room had been ransacked, and the only thing gone was my money. I'd hidden it to try and keep it from my brother because, well, the obvious reason being that my brother would take it. I thought I had hidden it well, but he found it anyways. My mom was home when he did it too, and she acted like she didn't even notice, but there's no way she could not have heard him tearing my room up. In fact, I called her out on that during the intervention, and she just cried and made excuses about my brother being special. That is, until my other family members chimed in and told her to fess up. My room was on the first floor right near the living room. My door was completely in view view of the couch. And when I pointed this out back then, my mom just made the excuse again that he's special and he's not like you. It was all just a big excuse for my brother. I said I wanted the money back, and my mom just kept making more excuses. My dad was also no help either, because when he got home, he was also making excuses. But thankfully, eventually I did get that money back, because I refused to let it go. I heard my brother screaming as they took the money out of his piggy bank and gave it back to me, and they had the most disappointed looks on their faces, like I had just robbed my brother, even though he robbed me. And they couldn't even tell me off because I wasn't in the wrong, and they knew it. I don't imagine many kids getting in the kind of situations I've been in, where they are more right about something than their parents are very often. And just when I thought things would get better, a few months later the whole situation repeated. My brother ransacked my room again and stole the money I had hidden again. That time my parents didn't want to do anything about it, and basically said that they couldn't bear to see my brother so disappointed from taking his money. I felt like I was losing my mind. I kindly reminded them that stolen money wasn't his money, and it was really crappy that they are just sitting back and letting that happen. And after I said that, my dad yelled at me and told me to go to my room. So the next day I rode my bike to my aunt's house and told her everything, and she came back home with me and asked my parents if they really let my brother steal from me and did nothing about it. My mom just started whining that my brother is special needs and she didn't want to make him cry again, and my dad backed her up. My aunt just gave them both the narrow-eyed look and reminded them that they have two sons, and my feelings matter too, and what they are doing was very wrong, and it meant that my brother would never respect boundaries and would think he can always get away with stealing when he gets older. My aunt asked me openly how much my brother took. I stated the number, which at the time was everything I had, save for a few bucks in my wallet. My aunt gave my parents an expectant glare. My parents tried making a few more excuses, but my aunt had a counter for each one of them. Finally, my parents went into my brother's room, and a moment later my brother was screaming at the top of his lungs. My parents then came back with all of the money my brother had taken and practically threw it at me for making my brother cry. My aunt then told them off for acting that way when I've done nothing wrong. They then begrudgingly picked up all of my money that they had thrown at me and gave me a pretty forced apology. My aunt said that she'd be severely disappointed in them if they let this situation repeat. And before she left, my aunt offered for me to hide my money at her house in a lockbox that she had. I took her up on that and started keeping my savings over there. My brother ended up ransacking my room 2 more times looking for money, but I was keeping every cent I had in my aunt's house. My parents actually asked me where I had hidden it, and I refused to tell them. I simply could not believe they were doing this. Then I asked why they wanted to know so badly anyway, and my dad instantly got defensive about it. My mom calmed him down and they didn't ask again. Since he couldn't find my money in my room, my brother figured I must have hidden it somewhere else. So he started tearing the house apart, one room at a time. And who did they force to clean up that mess? Why, yours truly, of course. My parents then started to blame me for the entire situation. But when I asked how it was my fault for not letting my brother steal from me, their only counter was that my brother had special needs. I swear, they used that line with me 1,000 times over. That was something else I heavily berated my parents for in the family intervention. The final straw came when my brother ransacked my parents' bedroom. My parents had a small suitcase safe that they kept some cash in, and my brother locked himself in their room, took the entire safe, and started bashing it around on stuff to try and get it open, all because he couldn't find the keys. By the time my parents were able to get the door open by breaking it open, my brother had destroyed the room, and he never got that safe open. He just sat on the floor clutching it and crying about the money inside. My dad was so angry that he turned red, and then to my utter surprise, he actually started yelling at my brother and grounded him, which really was a very rare sight for me to see back then. Then my parents forced my brother to help clean up the mess. After that, my brother never ransacked mine or my parents' rooms ever again looking for money, but he would still go rooting around every time he got an idea where my savings might be. So I started acting like I was giving hints by repeatedly going into certain places, all while he was watching. He ransacked the backyard shed, dug a bunch of holes in the yard and under the back porch, and even ransacked the attic. My parents really hit their breaking point with the attic and grounded my brother again. My parents did eventually figure out I was keeping my money at my aunt's house, and they didn't argue with my reasoning for doing it. but either my brother overheard or one of them spilled the beans to him, because the next time we visited my aunt, my brother tried to hunt for the money, but my aunt yelled at him to stop, and my brother would just sit on the floor and cry. This happened a few more times, and my aunt bluntly stated that she would press charges for any damages if my brother ransacked anything, and also kept a digital camera on hand to record anything if need be. My parents heavily scolded my brother to stop looking for my money. It wasn't his, and he can't have it, which only brought on more screaming and crying that he wants it like a 3-year-old. Eventually, my brother said he didn't want to go to my aunt's house anymore, so my parents visited less. My aunt visited us a lot more than we visited her anyways. I was pretty much able to keep my money away from my brother till after I moved out, and he has never managed to steal cash from me ever again. What a terrible situation to be stuck in. If your brother really is special needs, then your parents need to absolutely help him understand that stealing is not okay, because allowing this type of behavior to develop at an early age is only going to damage him in the future. It is absolutely no excuse for your parents to use the excuse that your brother's special needs just to excuse his stealing. I mean, after the first 2 times, you would think that they would actually step up to the plate and be good parents, but they just brushed it off and said, "Oh no, it's your fault." Which, by the way, how on earth would it be your fault? You're just trying to save your money, but your parents are enabling your brother to just steal from them. And ironically enough, it's only when your brother tried to ransack your parents' room to break open that safe that they actually put their foot down and said no more. They clearly needed a taste of their own medicine to get things going, which honestly is not what it should have taken. So good for you for being able to save your money from your brother and for getting out of that house. That must have been miserable to deal with, and I'm sure it's a relief to no longer have to keep your money at your aunt's house any longer. My ex is blaming me for everything, even though she was overly controlling the entirety of our relationship, and I'm honestly not sure what to do. So my ex and I got in a little argument the other day. It really wasn't anything serious, but we both kind of took it too far, and it got out of hand. Pretty much what happened was the night before the argument, I was playing Xbox with my brother. I decided to have a couple of beers while we were playing, because why not? I didn't feel the need to tell her this, because it was just at home, and it wasn't like I was trying to get drunk or going out or anything. Either way, she was asleep and lives across the country from me, and we already said goodnight. She ends up waking up in the middle of the night and texts me that her dog woke her up and she couldn't fall back asleep. We were texting like normal, and I told her I was just playing Xbox with my brother and having a couple of beers. She replies with, "What? You didn't tell me you were drinking." I told her it was casual and we were just playing video games and that I had only had 3 beers over the span of 3 hours or so. She replies with, "That's a lot of drinking. Why didn't you tell me?" And I said, "My bad, I didn't really think to text you about it. I'm just chilling at home. If I was going out or actually getting drunk, it would be a different story." Anyway, it kind of hurt me and I felt low-key attacked, as well as interrogated over nothing, but I just kind of ignored it. The next morning, I brought it up and said, "I don't really like how you came at me last night. I was just enjoying a few drinks with my brother. I don't know why you had to come at me and ask why I didn't say anything and tell me that I drank a lot when I really didn't." She replied with a facepalm emoji. Things kind of escalated from there, and I started getting sarcastic after she said, "Don't give me that. You're starting a fight for no reason." She was mad at me for being sarcastic and thought I was immature. To be honest, I guess I overreacted and took it too far, but either way, I was fed up with her being controlling. There have been multiple times in our relationship where she expects me to drop everything for her, inform her about every little thing, and it all just takes away from my own free time. But I still don't think her interrogating me over 3 beers while she is asleep across the country is okay behavior. Anyway, we both dropped it and moved on with our day. We were texting normally and everything seemed fine. Maybe it was just a small miscommunication, right? Well, the next day, I decided to be a good person and apologize for being over the top, and I just said I'm sorry for what happened, as well as for my part in the argument. Mind you, this is after we had stopped fighting and were talking normally again. But I guess apologizing wasn't the right thing to do, because she replies with, "I need time to think. I said okay, I will give you space. Let me know when you want to talk." So she finally contacts me today after leaving me in silence for 5 days. And guess what? She breaks up with me. She puts all the blame on me and says that I was hiding it from her and that I am rude and need help. Like, what in the blue moon is going on? She said that everything I've done has brought her to the breaking point. As a side note, I have been to therapy for my issues, which stem from ADHD and anxiety, and I have drastically improved myself. I used to be a very angry person and in the past really hurt her. However, these things occurred so long ago, but she is using these incidents as her main reasoning. It's almost like she uses these things against me when I went to therapy and did everything to correct myself. Now one slip up, which was just too far for her, and she just dumps me out of nowhere. She claims that my rude behavior is due to the fact that I am not in therapy currently because I just graduated college and I cannot afford it. I have explained to her countless times that I am working on getting a job as well as insurance so that I can get therapy again. How can I go to therapy when I can't afford it? And how is this my fault when she is the one being controlling? What should I do? I definitely have to side with the OP on this one. The way the girlfriend's acting over something so minor is really ridiculous. And from the sounds of it, this guy's anger issues are from a really long time ago. It's really not fair to pin this on somebody when they've tried to improve themselves, and from the sounds of it, have made some very serious efforts to be better. That's really immature of her to do, and it does not make her a good partner in my opinion. If anything, it kind of sounds like she wanted to break up with him, and she was waiting for that one thing to have as an excuse to then dump all this other garbage on him that had already been resolved up to this point. It's really gross behavior, and this guy does not need this type of jerk in his life. So honestly, I'm kind of happy that this guy got out of this relationship, because who wants to really be in a relationship with someone who's going to sling mud at you all the time based on your own mistakes in the past, especially when you've tried to do better and be a better person overall. He does not need that, and he can find someone who's going to treat him with respect and be a lot better than this terrible ex-girlfriend. My mother-in-law is very overbearing and keeps trying to feed me meat, and I don't know what to do. I have been with my husband for 6 years, and we're married for 3, and expecting a baby boy in just a few weeks. I met his mother early in our relationship, and initially really liked her since she was fun to be around and we had a lot in common. I've been a strict vegetarian since I was about 10 years old by choice. When I first met his parents and we would go to restaurants, it was just small things like asking if I was sure I wanted what I ordered, as well as offering to split their meal and dishes with me, or waving their chicken or steak in front of me and saying things like, "Doesn't it smell good?" I thought they were just trying to be nice, if anything just a little bit clueless, but I ignored it because I get that kind of thing all the time. After my husband and I got engaged and then married, we started spending more time at his parents' house, as they only lived a few streets away, and I was excited since I've never had a traditional family and I've always wanted to be a part of it. We would go for dinner a lot, and every single time it would be something with meat in it. Despite my mother-in-law knowing that I can't eat meat, I would usually just eat whatever the sides were and leave the meat alone. That is, until she started frying things in goose fat as well as adding bacon to veggies, saying it gave it a better flavor. My husband told her every single time that it was cruel leaving me with nothing to eat, and she would always apologize, saying she didn't know I couldn't have it. I figured maybe she just didn't know how to make vegetarian food somehow, and so I offered to bring my own dish to family dinners, but she insisted it was too much trouble for me to do that and that she wanted to treat us. I started to believe maybe she was either clueless or just stupid, and I eventually refused to eat anything she cooked. Whenever we ate with his parents from then on, we either went to a restaurant or they came to our house. I was always nice to her, even when I was angry, and she was always nice to me and didn't think it was worth arguing over. But once the pregnancy came along, it made me start rethinking my relationship with her. As soon as she found out I was pregnant, she was all over me, and at first I was actually looking forward to spending more time with her. I don't have a mother, so being one myself was bittersweet, since I had nobody to go for advice or support. So I was excited to have my mother-in-law involved. I had very bad morning sickness for the first 4 months, and she was great with taking care of the house and making sure that I was okay. There were very few things I could stomach, so she didn't try cooking for me, but insisted on bringing me toast and fruit and tea, and I was very grateful, as on my bad days I couldn't even get out of bed. After my nausea eased, the problem started again. She's been staying over for days at a time, and while she isn't being annoying, she's just wanting to clean the house and help us prepare, essentially for what feels like an 800-week pregnancy, and it's just making me uncomfortable, and I really want my space. She's generally very on top of me, and I know she's just excited to have her first grandchild, but she probably asks me, "How's the little man?" as well as, "When do I get to meet my little baby?" about 100 times a day. Some things even feel a little creepy though, like always asking me if he's moving or kicking, as well as putting her hands on and rubbing and kissing my belly constantly. One time I was in a really bad mood, and as soon as she touched my bump, I slapped her hand away and she cried and I felt a little terrible. Throughout all of this, I've only blown up on her twice. The first was when she commented on my size, not in a nasty way, just in the way that you do to pregnant people. Since I was first showing, whenever she saw me, she would drop a little joke, saying something like,
"I bet nothing fits you anymore."
Or she would also say,
"I swear, you get a little bigger every time I look at you."
It felt creepy and invasive, and I've always had body issues, so I didn't like what she said. Now that I'm almost full term, it's just been the usual.
"You're ready to pop."
I get stuff like that from her all the time. But a few days ago, she said,
"You look like you were ready to have that baby yesterday. How do you even have any room for him anymore? You're huge."
And after she said that, I exploded. I said something like, "I know, you don't have to tell me. I'm aware. Please leave me alone." I felt horrible after that because I did upset her, and she didn't talk to me for a few days because of it. The second time I blew up at her was when the meat thing started again, which feels like such a small part of it, but it was the last straw that broke me. While she was staying over, she started cooking for me and my husband. And guess what? It was always meat. I told her it was fine and that one of us would cook, but she insisted that she wasn't going to make a pregnant woman slave away in the kitchen, as if I don't cook for myself almost every day when she's not here. My husband, who has been 100% on my side throughout all of this, sat down and told her she absolutely cannot do that anymore, and she apologized, and actually promised she wouldn't cook meat anymore and would make vegetarian food when she insisted on cooking. I thought that if she wouldn't listen to me, she would at least listen to her son. The other day, my husband was out from the morning until the afternoon, and my mother-in-law offered to cook me lunch. She made me vegetarian meatballs in thick, flavorful sauce, and I was honestly impressed. Shortly after eating, I started feeling incredibly nauseous and threw up, which was odd since I haven't had morning sickness or any other nausea in months. When my husband got home, I told him I was worried that his mom had done something to the meatballs and that I thought I was going crazy, thinking she was trying to poison me or trying to force meat on me once again. My husband confronted his mom, and eventually she admitted that they weren't veggie meatballs, but they were pork, which I haven't eaten in almost 20 years, so my body immediately rejected it. We threw her out of the house, and she hasn't stopped trying to come over or to try and contact us, begging me to forgive her. I don't know what to do anymore. She's been so nice to me as long as I've known her, and my husband is extremely close to her. I don't want to force him to cut contact with his own mother or stop her from seeing her first grandchild over something so small. I don't have any allergies or health issues, but my son might, and she could ignore them and make him eat something that could badly hurt him. I feel so stupid and paranoid, but I just don't know if I can trust her around me or my baby. What should I do? This is actually a lot more serious than people may realize. For someone who's strictly vegan or vegetarian, any kind of meat can make them violently ill. This is a very specific dietary restriction, so your body can react very poorly if any type of meat is in their food. What this mother-in-law is doing is absolutely disgusting and incredibly disrespectful. She is blatantly at this point disrespecting this lady's boundaries and ignoring the fact that she is a vegetarian. She literally cannot stomach having meat in her system. Her body, after 20 plus years, is not used to it. Like, that's ridiculous. I can't believe this person is not understanding of that situation. In my opinion, I think it's time to set a very serious boundary and not allow this woman to come back to your house. She is clearly not getting the picture or being woefully ignorant to your dietary restrictions. She is blatantly ignoring it and cooking whatever she wants just to try and get you to eat meat, which is genuinely not fair, and in my opinion is more akin to food poisoning than anything else. So I think kicking her out and saying, "No, you cannot come over to my house," will send a very clear consequence to this lady. When you set up boundaries and someone doesn't accept those boundaries and then gets upset because you reject them, that's what we like to call consequences, and she needs to own up to the consequences of her decisions. And she knows for a fact that you can't eat meat, but she's ignoring it anyways. So kick her to the curb and say, "Nope, you're not allowed in my house anymore," because otherwise this will continue and she won't get the message, and who knows what she would try next. An entitled Karen demands that my deaf employee apologize to her, all because she said they were ignoring her. And when I tried to explain that this employee was deaf, she demanded proof and refused to believe me. Things got so bad that I had to kick this entitled Karen out. Here's what happened. For reference, I've spent 15 years of my life being a restaurant general manager. I've got some crazy stories, and this one certainly takes the cake. It was Mother's Day, and it was one of the busiest days at my restaurant. We had quick service, self-seating, and casual dining. An entitled Karen already ordered, had her buzzer, and was waiting for a table to open. She sees another family get up and immediately runs to the dirty table to reserve it. No big deal, right? It just needs to get cleaned up up and then they can happily sit there if they want. This entitled Karen sees my deaf employee and begins yelling at her from behind. So to this Karen, the deaf employee just simply doesn't do anything at all. She continues to follow them and berate them around. Now I understand that there is no sign saying my employee was deaf, but I believe that a normal person would realize that something was off after getting no acknowledgement at all. I noticed something was going on and walked over to the already irate entitled Karen and asked if I could help. She then goes off on me about how my deaf employee was ignoring her request to clean off the table and help her family sit down. I apologized to this entitled Karen and explained that my employee didn't respond to her shouts because she is deaf and genuinely had no idea anyone was trying to communicate with her. I signaled one of my bussers to come clear the table while I continued to speak with this Karen. This is when the entitled Karen accused me of lying about my deaf employee. She demanded to know why I would hire someone who couldn't respond to her shouts and demands. And at this point, I was getting very annoyed. I explained that I didn't need to justify any of my hiring decisions and that I 100% stood by my team. The entitled Karen demanded that I fire this employee. She said that there is no use for a deaf person to work in a restaurant, and this had me fuming. At this point, her table had been bussed, her kids were sitting down looking quite embarrassed, and her buzzer was going off, informing her that her food was ready for pickup at the counter. To me, there was no reason to continue with this entitled Karen, especially on such a busy day. I asked her if she needed any help picking up her food, and if not, I wished her a good meal and excused myself. But the entitled Karen was not done with my team. She again saw the deaf employee restocking some items and decided to prove to me that I was wrong. She approached this employee and again began berating her using very offensive language. When the deaf employee turned to face this entitled Karen and realized that she was being yelled at, she looked very frightened and very confused. I never allow my employees to be harassed, and this was especially evil. I immediately had my expo counterpack the woman's order to go. I handed it to her and I said, "You need to get out now." This entitled Karen swore at me up and down and told me she was going to contact corporate and have me as well as my deaf employee fired. Yeah, okay, like I've never heard that before. I escorted the entitled Karen and her poor children to the door and told her she was not welcome back in my restaurant. After that situation, the deaf employee was crying and so confused. I sat with her in my office and explained that this had nothing to do with her and she was a fantastic employee, which is honestly true. She had worked for me for over 5 years and was the first deaf employee to be a certified trainer for her position in the entire company. I simply cannot believe that someone would be so mean to someone who is so nice, and I never let anyone talk to her like that ever again. That entitled Karen is so unbelievably evil. I think the original poster put it best. To berate and harass and attack somebody all because they're deaf is so disgusting. And the fact that she said there's no use for them, what kind of discriminatory mindset is that? That is so horrible. It's moments like that you wish you had somebody recording her reactions and how she was acting so that it can be posted online and people can see it, because behavior like that is just unacceptable. And I'm so glad that this general manager of this restaurant stood up for their employees and said, no, you are not talking to them like that. Thankfully, that lady's never welcome back at that restaurant ever again, and hopefully this deaf employee never has to deal with that ever again. I just found out I wasn't invited to a coworker's party because his wife doesn't like me, and I really don't know what to do. A coworker threw a party at his house over the weekend, and I found out from other coworkers who were invited. We will call my coworker John. That's not his real name. John and I have started working together earlier this year when he joined our department. We aren't on the same team, but often will hang out at lunch or at the bar after hours with everyone else involved. We aren't super close, but we are pretty friendly, at least on the same level as others who were invited to the party. Yesterday, a coworker I am close with pulled me aside and told me she felt bad, but she, as well as others, were invited to John's house over the weekend for a small party. It wasn't coworkers only, and John and his wife's friends from outside of work were the majority. I was a bit hurt I wasn't invited and asked if she knew why, as well as if I had done something to upset John. She told me that it was the general consensus that John's wife didn't like me hanging around him at work or happy hour, and that I apparently gave her homewrecker vibes. She overheard the wife telling her friends this at the party in a different room from the main area and was eavesdropping just a little bit. The wife said it was weird that I follow him on Instagram and like all of his posts when he doesn't follow follow me back. I was mortified by this. I follow other coworkers too, and they follow me back. Her friend apparently then asked if the wife was worried that I would see photos of the party, to which his wife responded, "I can't have a party in my own house with my husband without inviting her," as if she doesn't spend enough time with him every lunch or happy hour. Maybe now she will get the hint and just go away. Also, as an important note, I don't have any feelings for John beyond work friendliness, but now I feel like I've done something wrong, and I'm being made out to be this office hussy. I unfollowed him from social media after my coworker told me this, and got lunch with some other people yesterday. I still said hi and such when I saw him, and we were both very polite. He didn't mention the party, and I didn't mention what I was told. I just can't figure out what it was that ticked off his wife. We don't hang out one-on-one, and it's always with other coworkers, both male and female. I don't understand why I'm being singled out specifically. I just want my work environment to be a friendly one, and this sort of situation is causing me to feel stressed and hypervigilant of my interactions at work now. It seems like there's some undercurrent in our department now where people noticed I wasn't invited and are now making silent assumptions like they think I did something improper involving John. I walked into our snack lounge and 3 of the women who were there stopped talking abruptly and just gave me really forced greetings. What should I do to diffuse this situation? My natural instinct is to talk to John, but I feel that this would get back to his wife and cause more drama. A close friend of mine suggested I just disentangle myself from him completely and only interact with him on work-related things. I just want to avoid any more drama, and I'm just not sure what to do. This is definitely a weird situation because it looks like this wife definitely has it out for you. She clearly does not like you being around her husband, and I don't think it's anything you've done specifically. She probably views you as some kind of threat, even though you've never done anything to insinuate that you're interested in John, but she's gonna go out of her way to be incredibly toxic and treat you like garbage. If I was in your situation, I would just act normal. If people want to talk garbage, let them talk garbage. I could care less what they think of me. I'll be professional and I'll be polite, but the days of me being super duper friendly with anybody at that office would definitely be numbered. At this point, you know people's true colors, and if their first instinct is to say, "Oh man, such and such must have done something wrong. Otherwise, why wouldn't she be invited to this party?" I mean, if they're saying that, then guess what? You don't want to be friends with them at all, because you can guarantee that when you're not around, they're talking garbage about you. So if anything, let them talk. Who cares? And as for John and his wife, I feel bad for John. Sounds like he has a very toxic wife who clearly has it out for you. And I think your friend is right. Distance yourself from John. You don't need that. Sure, you've been friendly in the past and you followed him on Instagram and stuff, but it's time to step away and spend time with other people because you don't need this kind of energy in your life. And I honestly think that your coworker only told you this to try and stir the pot. I really don't think she said this to try and help you out in any way. I mean, she even said it herself. She was eavesdropping. She was snooping on somebody's private conversation. I mean, is this really somebody you want to take good advice from, as well as any kind of credible insight? I personally would not. So I would just keep your head down and socialize with others, but keep doing your own thing. Office gossip will always move to somebody else, and pretty soon they'll have another target, and you can just move forward and get your work done. Because at the end of the day, you didn't do anything wrong, and no amount of backbiting from this guy's wife is going to change that. My brother acts incredibly weird towards my girlfriend, and things got so bad that I chose to move out and live with her instead of my family. Now my family refuses to talk to me, and they're giving me the cold shoulder, and I'm not sure what to do. First, let me provide some context. My older brother is 32 years old, and he's never had a job, and he dropped out of community college after 2 semesters for never doing his assignments. He's lived with my parents his entire life, and he sleeps all day and just stays up all night playing video games. Both my brother and I are diagnosed as autistic and present our symptoms similarly, but I've been working since I was 17 and got my driver's license at 17, as well as bought my first car at 24, as well as started college in 2019. My parents constantly use my brother's autism as an excuse for his appalling behavior, even though we're both on the spectrum. In November 2020, I moved back in with my parents because I left an abusive relationship and had chronic health issues. I met my current girlfriend in mid-2021, and in early 2022, she had some extenuating circumstances where my family agreed to let her live with us. My brother was immediately pleased with this development, but just as quickly behaved inappropriately. It started off with him creepily staring anytime my girlfriend and I kissed, and it progressed to him following my girlfriend into the bathroom anytime he saw her go in there for a shower. That is, until he figured out that she always locked the door because of him. And the straw that broke the camel's back was him trying to come into our bedroom uninvited uninvited and without knocking at 3 in the morning while we slept. Every time he behaved inappropriately, we mentioned it to my parents, but all that really happened were excuses made for him, basically stating that because he's autistic, his situation is somehow special, and that they will have a brief conversation with him about not doing those things again, only to then have him still do whatever he wanted. Anyway, after the bathroom incident, they kicked my girlfriend out, making her homeless for a brief period of time. As a result of this, my girlfriend and I got an apartment together, and I moved out because I didn't want to be in the same house as my brother. I was upset with the way my girlfriend was treated, and I wasn't willing to break up with her, which my parents wanted me to do. I had a calm conversation with my parents, explaining why I was moving out. I also explained that it's their house, so they are more than entitled to make rules concerning their own home. However, I was not going to continue living somewhere my girlfriend wasn't welcome, as well as in a place where my brother can act like a complete freak all the time, and it's not going to be punished. At first, they told me they love me, and that they're sorry they ever made me feel that way. They said that they want me to keep a key to the house because I'm always welcome over, and that if I ever needed to move back in, I could. Well, several days later, I went over to pick up some more of my things, only to find that my parents had changed the locks on the house. Later that same week, they tell me they're angry with me for being ungrateful. They even implied that I said that I hate them and that I called them bad parents, which I never said. They went on to tell me that they didn't want to speak to me for a week because they were so upset and that they needed time to process what was going on. They thought I needed to feel what it was like to be cut off of the family. I respected their wishes, and later my parents agreed to family therapy, which they quickly backed out of because they were only willing to do it over a 3-way video call, and my therapist website wasn't able to do that. That same Sunday, my parents invited me over for dinner, which I thought was going well, only to find out that they would continue to dodge my calls and leave text messages on read after that night. They eventually contacted me and told me to stop using their house as storage, and told me to come by and pick up my things, despite requesting that I stay away for a week. So my girlfriend and I go over to pick up the rest of our stuff, which was incredibly awkward but thankfully quick. Later that day, I got a text from my mom wishing me luck at college, but my parents still aren't willing to talk about the issue that led to me moving out in the first place. They are also unwilling to come over to see my new apartment, even after being invited over despite the circumstances. Overall, I still love them and I want a relationship with them, since this type of behavior is highly uncharacteristic of them. Understandably, my girlfriend isn't fond of them, but told me she doesn't mind me inviting my parents over because it's important to her that I have a relationship with my parents, especially for the sake of my mental well-being. Has anyone ever dealt with a situation like this before? If so, how did you deal with it? I don't want to lose my parents, but at the same time, I cannot excuse my brother's weird behavior. What should I do? The fact that your family is upset because you set boundaries is honestly not your fault. Your brother was acting incredibly weird towards your girlfriend, and instead of punishing the brother, your parents kick your girlfriend out of your house, which in my opinion is incredibly backwards. And now they're just giving you the cold shoulder and treating you like garbage, all because you put your foot down and decided, no, I'm not going to take this. If people get upset over your boundaries, then that's their problem. That is not your responsibility to navigate. At the end of the day, your brother was being very weird towards your girlfriend, and was even trying to follow her into the bathroom when she was trying to take a shower. I mean, that's the epitome of weird, and I don't blame you for moving out. So honestly, I would keep your head up and keep going forward in the direction you want to go. If your family wants to be weird and cut you off, well then honestly, I think you're getting off with a better deal, because regardless of what you do, they will probably always make excuses for your brother, and you honestly don't ever have to deal with that ever again if you choose to. My girlfriend uses her phone and watches videos online way too much, and after finally confronting her about it, she got incredibly defensive and very upset, and I'm just so over it and not sure what to do. For the past year or so, my girlfriend has been insanely addicted to Facebook and TikTok. I'm talking, it is literally the only thing I ever see her doing. Like from the second I get home to the second I see her sleeping, and when she wakes up, she opens the app and passes out in 5 minutes with some stupid video playing that I have to listen on repeat until I turn it off. And when I do that, she's only about 90% asleep and gets mad when I do it. I'm so done with this. Last week, she asked me if I was willing to give up my dreams and desires to move across the country just for her, and she said she wouldn't be mad if I said I wanted to live my own life. And after she said this, she went to the bathroom and cried. This was last week. As a side note, she's stuck in this area for a while and she doesn't want to live here. So that's where that conversation came from. I am now at a point where I wish I had just ended this this relationship when I had the chance. And honestly, this girl, for 3 out of the 4 years we were together, was the literal love of my life. But this is where things are really causing friction. She will pass out outside watching those stupid videos and literally wake up at 9 in the morning, causing my daughter to be late for her second week of school at a private school. She's almost an hour to an hour and a half late to work, and guess what? She gets mad at me when I ask her to just put the phone down and do something with me. She got so upset with me when I called her out and said, why don't you put the phone down and let's just go to bed and get some sleep? I'm so over this online video stuff, and everything is so contradictory. She always wants to talk whenever it's something going on with her job or if she just needs to vent. But when it comes to me, I can barely keep her attention for 2 minutes. Her family is in love with me. They tell her all the time to never leave me. My family loves her too. I seriously bend over backwards for this girl, and this is the garbage I get in return. I'm so done, and it's really upsetting. I could be traveling wherever I want and doing whatever I want to do. I put it all back for her because I genuinely love her, and she was worth putting all that back for. But now she's head over heels and obsessed with whatever's happening online with her favorite creators, and I really think I'm about to break up with her. I love her so much, but this is just awful now. It's not worth it. I could be with some girl that actually appreciates me working 6 to 7 days a week and still wanting to spend time with her, not one that just stares at her phone the second she gets home from work to the second she goes to bed. Whoever has been through something like this, please just let me know what happened and if you fixed it or if it's just a mess and you ended up leaving, because I absolutely don't blame you. I'm old school. I like to fix small things before they're major, but I have no problems being by myself and finding someone else. This is beginning to turn into an engine replacement on an old beater that just simply isn't worth the energy to do anymore. What should I do? It sounds like this guy is at his wit's end, and I can completely understand what he's talking about. There's nothing worse than trying to spend time with your significant other and they're only sitting on their phone and ignoring you completely. But when the roles are reversed, they get upset when you're deciding to spend some time with yourself. And from the sounds of it, it's very imbalanced. I think for this guy, the best thing you can do as a last-ditched effort is to maybe talk to her and be like, hey, we need to figure this out, and just clear the air. Let her know exactly what's going on, because you said it best, you're planning on leaving her, so there's probably nothing to lose when it comes to just explaining how you feel, because this lady is not getting it. This is causing such a rift in your relationship that you don't want anything to do with her, and her actions are negatively affecting your daughter's life. Like, that's more than enough reason for me to be like, wait a second, this is now a serious problem. You can try and waste my time, but don't waste my daughter's time. So I don't blame you for being upset, and you have every right to be, because her actions are incredibly neglectful, and you deserve a lot better than this, and so does your daughter. I mean, what kind of example is that setting for her? And for me personally, entertainment and videos online are very important. They can provide a temporary escape from the things going on if you just need to relax a little bit. But when online videos get in the way of your actual real-life responsibilities, that's when you've got a serious problem on your hand, and that's when you need to make an adjustment. And it sounds like this lady is not self-aware, and she doesn't realize that she's ruining her relationship. So hopefully you have a good talk with her, and hopefully things work out and you don't have to break up, because that would definitely be a rough situation. But at the end of the day, if no progress is being made, then I don't blame you for leaving. My supposedly good friends did not invite me to their wedding, and now I'm not sure where to go from here. I live in a city far away from where I went to college. A few years ago, a couple who went to that college, we'll call them John and Sarah, that's not their real name, moved to my city. I hit it off fast with them despite not knowing them when I was in school, and we all hung out together. Over the years, John and I grew really close. We ended up working together nearby pre-COVID and would get lunch together a lot. John and Sarah actually moved closer to me, and we ended up independently getting the same type of dog, over which we all bonded and had our pups over for many play dates. I consider them to be very close friends. John also had numerous health issues, which I offered to him as well as Sarah to help out in any way that I could, and they were very appreciative. But despite all of this, as well as the friendship that we have, here's the part that really upsets me. This weekend, they got married, and I was not invited. While I know I am not owed anything in life, I can't lie and say that I'm not extremely hurt by this for quite a few reasons. For one, it was a very large wedding. It wasn't like they eloped or kept the family out of it. Nearly all of our mutual friends were invited. Also, one of the aforementioned friends was invited at the last minute, so it wasn't a money issue. They just didn't include me. And they both talked about the wedding plans with me beforehand and never invited me. We are still on speaking terms. In fact, John John reached out to me a few weeks ago wanting to get the dogs together. But at this point, it's clear that I clearly overestimated the friendship, and I feel like an idiot for doing that. However, I'm not sure where to go from here. I do think I'll be pulling back from John and Sarah for the sake of my own mental health, but I also don't know if I should have a talk with them about this or about how I'm feeling. Again, I recognize that I'm not owed anything, but I also feel like I can be hurt and allowed to be hurt. I personally think our friendship is over, but should I at least let it go quietly? I don't plan on being rude if I see them again, but gone are the days of me reaching out to see how John is doing or offering to watch their dog ever again. What should I do? That is really disappointing that they did not invite you to their wedding, especially since it was a large wedding and you very easily could have gone and shown your support. So I think it's completely understandable that you feel like you've been left out on purpose. I mean, to an extent, you really have been there for them. You've known them for several years and you've grown a pretty close bond for the most part. So the fact that they would act like this is very strange, especially on their wedding day. You would have thought you'd at least get an invite. But in my own personal opinion, I think your plan to say, hey, I'm going to step away from this is probably a good idea. I don't think they were using you with trying to get you to watch their dog or even you helping out with John with his medical issues. But I think taking a step away for your own mental health, like you said, is probably not a bad idea here. And it really just sucks because you think you have some good friends who you can spend time with and you have common interests with, but it can be very heartbreaking to see that maybe it's not as tightly knit as you thought it was. There's also the possibility that they just saw you as a good work friend. There's probably a really good chance that a lot of other coworkers were not invited to this as well. So you never know, maybe it was just a situational thing and they decided let's not invite anybody from work. Obviously the logistics of this are really complicated and we can't know all the details, but I think your general plan of stepping away for your own mental health and giving yourself some distance from them is probably for the best. An entitled Karen tries to convince a theme park employee that I'm not disabled enough to have a special pass at the theme park I'm going to, and I honestly could not be more disgusted. Here's what happened. I was at a theme park yesterday with my friends, and as the title states, and as I'm sure you can imagine, we looked into some sort of special access pass. I have a rather odd leg condition. It has a name, but I'm not sure what it's called in English, but it's sort of an infection in the ankle bone that has caused permanent damage. Needless to say, getting in rides as well as general things takes just a little bit longer for me. Standing in line all day was something I'd like to avoid. And hey, the theme park is accommodating. They offer a special pass. And mind you, this isn't a fast pass or anything like that. It just puts you in a separate line where there's room for wheelchairs, as well as seats for people like me. Overall, the wait time was pretty much the same thing, but they help a lot with getting into the ride if you're in this line. To get the pass, you didn't need to show anything proving your disability, but it did say you could be subject to being asked to prove it, which is fair enough. I wear special shoes. One is basically a knee-high boot, and it stands out, which most of the employees saw. They checked my pass and everything was fine. I did have the diagnosis from my doctor and a screenshot just in case they would ask. The employees at this park didn't bother me, but the entitled Karen I'm about to describe is a whole other story. I'm standing in line with my companions when someone comes walking up behind us. There were a few people in front of us too. I heard the woman make a loud noise of disappointment at how long the line was. The woman lit up a cigarette, a bit rude to do in a line, and my friend has asthma, so he asked her if she would just step back a little bit, and that is honestly where the problem started. This entitled Karen starts making a noise I can only describe as the call of a Karen. She did move back, but yelled something about how we had to make sure the employee would know she was there and that no one cut in the line. Not an unreasonable request, honestly, but it could have been said in a kinder manner. The employee comes out and checks everyone's pass. They do this because the pass has a mention of whether the visitor will need extra help getting in or out. The employee asked our group who has the pass, so I showed him and everything is fine. They asked the entitled Karen too, and she showed hers. She finished her cigarette and joins the line again, this time asking, "So, what's your disability?" I tell her it's something to do with my leg, and I point at my shoes. She seemed displeased by this, saying, "That's not a disability. I'm asking if you are disabled." At this point, I'm a little thrown off. I'm willing to share it, but it's also something private, and it doesn't concern her. I tell her I have an ankle condition and turn around to stop talking to her. Something to note here, she did have a child with her, though by all appearances there was nothing visibly disabled about them. Not my proudest moment, but the thought of her faking a disability did cross my mind. But I didn't speak on it. The entitled Karen kept talking to me though, but I just kept ignoring her, despite her barking off at me, saying that I needed to respect my elders. Eventually, other people were starting to take notice, and she was starting to draw some attention towards her. One of my friends, a bit comfortable with confrontation and knowing I'm not, chimed in and said, "Listen, it's none of your business. You wouldn't like it if we asked what you or your daughter's disability is either." To which she responded, "My child is autistic, so she's actually disabled." The employee comes out again, letting people in, and when they reach us, she tells this employee, "This person isn't disabled at all. Remove them from the line, please." The employee looks at us, then back to this entitled Karen, and says, "Well, they have the faculty pass, and we check those." And before he could continue, he gets cut off, and she starts talking about how her daughter is autistic, and I'm clearly not. I responded and said something like, "Yeah, I'm not autistic, but I do have a disability. These shoes aren't exactly a fashion choice." The employee definitely did not want to be involved in this, but he did tell this woman that she has to leave us alone. He let in a few people, my group included, but not the entitled Karen. In the hallway to the ride, he said, "Wow, what was that all about?" I told the employee it happened sometimes, sadly. I thanked the employee for their help, and I enjoyed the ride. But man, do I hate that Karen. I can't believe that lady would act like that. Like, she clearly jumped in line and already had a chip on her shoulder as it is. But to then come up and be like, "Oh, you're not disabled." Like, who are you to say that? That's such a disgusting thing to do. And it's also really disturbing that she was using her daughter literally just to get in this line, with her just saying, "My daughter's autistic, she's disabled." Yeah, sure, she might have some setbacks, but I have plenty of friends as well as relatives who are autistic, and they're able to function just fine in society. So I find this generally very insulting for her to basically parade her daughter around as if she's just a free pass at a theme park, which in my opinion, that's exactly what she was doing. People like this honestly really disgust me, and it's nice that these people at least stood up for themselves despite the fact that this lady was crazy. I mean, to actually call someone out and be like, "You're not disabled," is just so disgusting. Who are you to say what someone is or isn't? A lot of disabilities aren't easily seen, and in some cases are really subtle, that you would have to know the person specifically to understand what's going on. And even then, it's none of your business. Like, why is this lady acting like she's some kind of vigilante to prove people aren't disabled? But in the end, they were at least able to enjoy this ride without that entitled Karen hanging over her shoulder, trying to accuse her of not being disabled enough for this ride, which is absolutely ridiculous. My boyfriend is openly attracted to my cousin and makes no effort to hide it, and now I can't see her in the same way. I am quite close to my cousins, as I spent most of my childhood and preteen years with them. One of my cousins is known to be super beautiful. She has the most gorgeous brown hair and gray eyes. I love her quite a lot, and I've posted her on social media and never really cared even when people compared the both of us. I'm not too bad myself. I have also often been called attractive and have been hit on quite a lot, but among the two of us, she's no doubt the beauty of the family. It never bothered me because I knew we were both beautiful in different ways. This was until 2 years ago. My now ex-boyfriend and I were having a conversation, and I had been showing him my family. While I showed him pictures of all my cousins, he pointed her out and just said, "Wow," and proceeded to act super interested and asked me for her name. We broke up a few days later after that. A year and a half later, we got back in touch and started dating again. I told him about this incident a few months later when I remembered, and he just laughed it off and said that he was just stupid back then. I decided to end the relationship for good a few months later for reasons unrelated to this. Even though it's been 2 years, his comments made me start seeing my cousin as competition. This frustrates me to no end because I love my cousin, and I don't want anyone else's comments to affect my security within myself. It's just too petty. Yet what he did that day just can't seem to leave my head. Keep in mind that me and my cousin still maintain a very happy and a very healthy relationship. I hold nothing against her. If anyone is to blame here, it's my ex. What should I do? I think your ex-boyfriend is an absolute jerk. I mean, why would he do that to you? He's clearly dating you, and it's like, why would he be interested in your cousin? That's so counterintuitive to a healthy relationship. Like, come on. And it really sucks that you now see your cousin as competition, even though you've tried really hard to maintain a good relationship. I think if you want to try and spin this in a good way, you can say to yourself, well, at least I know that my cousin is a bad boyfriend deterrent. She can be a very valuable insight into how your boyfriend actually thinks. But I think in all honesty, you know your cousin better than anybody else. And I think she doesn't view you as competition, and she just loves you. And I don't think you should let anything in your life change when it comes to the relationship you have with your cousin, all because of those dumb comments. That guy is an idiot, and I'm really surprised you even let him back in your life, to be honest. He doesn't understand the relationship you guys have, and he will never be involved in your life ever ever again. And from the sounds of it, your cousin would never compare herself to you either. So I just wouldn't let this guy's comments get to you. It's not worth letting him rent space in your head. And honestly, you're gonna be so much happier now that you're not dating him. My boyfriend is an avid gamer, and I'm not sure how to navigate this lifestyle. My boyfriend has a full-time 9-to-5 job and will often raid or play with his guildmates on weekends, as well as a few times during the week on a popular MMO. He also games solo every day, and while the length of time is usually different, typically it's about an hour or so. I used to game quite a bit as well myself, but haven't much recently due to being a full-time student and working often as well. I want to stress that I don't look down on him at all for gaming. It's a normal hobby. Gaming culture is a large part of his life, and I don't want to unnecessarily take away from it. Almost 100% of the time, I'll come home from work and he'll be gaming, and once he's done, he'll come back to me and relax with me. This can be as quick as 15 minutes or over an hour and closer to 2. I usually don't mind this, even if I've come back from working all day, because either it was a scheduled activity or it wasn't, and I understand that you can't just leave games when playing, as well as when you're raiding with other people. If I really need to talk to him, I will tell him and he gets off fairly quickly, no problem. However, the scenario that typically upsets me is when we're hanging out and he will randomly get a message from a guildmate to play. He'll ask me if it will be okay to play games, and if I ever say no, stating that I would prefer to hang out or spend time with him still, his mood will shift negatively visibly. So I feel like I have to say that I don't mind even when I do, which really hurts. Another thing during this scenario is he will say that the guild activity will be 30 to 45 minutes, but often it will be closer to 2 hours. I understand that things often don't go as planned with gaming, and it is not his intention. I can find something to do in the meantime, but it bothers me nonetheless when I'm the one waiting to resume my time with him. These two things make me feel upset about his unplanned raiding and playing with his guild. I'm not sure if we're compatible in the long run, or if there's an easy compromise, because his game and guild is always there. I feel like there's no order. I wish he wasn't so available to a point where there's no times or days that are just off limits. I love him a lot. He's an absolutely amazing person. This is just one problem we can't seem to get over yet, and I need to know how to navigate this. There has to be a solution, considering how common this situation seems to be with couples. What should I do? I think you really need to sit down with your boyfriend and explain exactly how you feel in this regard. You really do need to tell him that you want to spend quality time with him, and that quality time should not be interrupted with friends online who want to game that very moment. He needs to really start putting you first in certain situations. Like if it's a planned activity and you know for a fact he's going to be gaming, then I don't really see a conflict in that regard. You both know what's going on, this is obviously very important to him, and he wants to participate. But the unplanned situations definitely need to be fixed. He needs to realize that his time with you is valuable, and it needs to be seen as more valuable than time with his guild. So I think discussing that with him and setting some kind of boundaries between the both of you that both of you can agree to follow will benefit both of you in the long run. Because the last thing you want is his passion for gaming to cause a rift between the two of you, especially over something that in my opinion very easily can be fixed. Today I messed up by being a grown man on a hotel water slide, and boy was that a mistake. We were vacationing and staying overnight at a mid-range hotel. I enjoy a good soak in a hot tub, and maybe even a dip in the pool afterwards to cool off, so we choose a place that had both. What I didn't know is that attached to the pool was also a water slide. As I enjoyed a nice soak, I watched kid after kid gleefully corkscrew down the slide and gracefully plop into the water like a duck jumping into a lake and swimming off. I decided I wasn't leaving without at least one trip down the slide, so I went up. When I got to the top, it looked much higher than it appeared from ground level, but rather than doing the walk of shame back down, I sucked it up and I went for it. Aside from all the warnings about liability and all this other stuff, there was a sign that said make sure the area is clear before you slide. So a quick check and it all looked good. I even gave myself a massive boost to maximize my enjoyment. About halfway down, I realized I was going very, very fast, like almost upside down in the tube fast. When I hit the water, instead of plopping in gracefully like all of the other 50-pound kids, I came rocketing out of the chute at maximum warp drive and skidded across the pool like a hydroplaning orca. Unfortunately, I also took out 3 unsuspecting kids in the process. When I finally got myself upright in the water, I made sure everyone was okay. Then I noticed the parents' faces who were looking on, which can only be described as horrified, amazement, and disappointed. In the process, I managed to give myself an atomic wedgie tea, and a chlorine nasal cleansing. Needless to say, I quickly packed up my stuff and exited the pool area. Luckily, we were checking out early the next morning, so we got out of there as fast as possible. That is absolutely hilarious to me because I can see that in my head. I can see you skidding across the water and taking these kids out one by one, and I can only imagine what the parents probably thought afterwards. You should be lucky that you didn't get in trouble with like the police or something for hitting their kids by accident. But then again, it's a water slide. Like, these things are bound to happen, and from the sounds of it, it didn't seem like there's like an age limit, like you can't be older than 18 or something like that to go on the slide. And to be honest, if I was in your shoes and I went down this water slide, I absolutely would give myself a massive boost going down. It's fun, I'm on vacation, why not? And to this person's credit, the parents really should have been in the pool with the kids and watching over them to make sure that they're not in the path of the water slide. I mean, you've got to know that people are coming in and out of it. People have been doing it apparently the entire time he's been there. So yeah, I wouldn't feel bad about this at all. And sure, yeah, you hit a few kids on the way down, but it sounds like nobody got seriously hurt, and if anything, it taught those kids to stay away from the exit of a water slide to avoid getting hit. And I'm sure after you went rocketing down the slide, that's a lesson that they'll never forget. My mom wants me to break up with my boyfriend despite my boyfriend not doing anything wrong, and I'm not sure what to do. My boyfriend and I have known each other for 5 years as friends before dating. We have now been dating for 6 months. He is an amazing guy, and he is so understanding and reciprocates my love languages like no other partner I've ever had. My boyfriend and I are an interracial couple, but I'm not going to say our races to keep this as anonymous as possible. My mother and I live together, and we don't really have that good of a relationship, and she is in a relationship of her own and is home about 3 days out of the week. When me and my boyfriend first started dating, he was very excited to meet my mom and offered to take me and her out to dinner to get to know her better, but she gave no answer to that, so he ended up meeting her outside of her home. My mom's boyfriend happened to be there as well, and that whole first meeting went pretty well, or so I thought, because they were all making conversation and it all went over smoothly. He was respectful, didn't make any offensive remarks, offered food, and so I thought it went overall really well. So over the past few months, my boyfriend would come over to hang out. He would pick me up to go out, we would study, or just go to the gym, and he would see my mom often, and they would chat here and there with no indication that anything was wrong. She would even invite him for dinner from time to time. Then, last month, my mom snapped at me about him being over too much and that she wants her space. But again, she's rarely at home herself, so it didn't make any sense. I told my boyfriend about it, and he was pretty upset, but he respected her wishes, and we have been seeing each other around her schedule. Then today, a close family member told me that my mom and her boyfriend doesn't like my boyfriend and wants me to break up with him. She went on to tell me that it was because of his race. I didn't know what to say. I felt so hurt and so angry, especially since she couldn't just tell me that herself, and instead asked a family member to tell me to break up with him, all because of the color of his skin. Ironically, they liked the ex that was emotionally abusive and cheated on me. Thankfully, my family member understands boundaries and respects my relationship, so they sided with me. My mom doesn't know that I know about this, and I honestly don't know what to do now. I don't know how, or if I even should tell him about this. He went through something like this in his last relationship, and I just feel so bad. How should I approach my mom about this, if at all? I'm in no position to move out either, and I don't know how that's going to change that dynamic. What should I do? I think you should really be careful about this situation, and unless it came from your mom specifically, I wouldn't totally trust what your relative is saying. That's just me personally. I'm the type of person that needs to hear it straight from the horse's mouth, if you know what I mean. I need to hear my mom specifically say, hey, I don't like your significant other because of the color of their skin. Once I hear that, then we can get the ball rolling. But until I get some solid proof that that is the case, I'm not going to jump to some conclusion. There's nothing wrong with being on guard and having your suspicions, but I wouldn't trust outright what this family member is telling me. But let's pretend for a second that this really is true, and your mom really did say this to a relative. If that really is the case, then I think you really need to take that seriously and think about what steps are next in your life. I mean, if it really is true that a relative came to you to tell you what your mom said about your boyfriend, then your mom really has no spine at all, now does she? And you said it yourself, if you're really not in a position to move out, if that's really what you want to do, then maybe it's time to start taking steps so you can secure yourself a place to live if things go really badly, all because of the color of your boyfriend's skin. So hopefully this gets worked out, and hopefully you're able to find some more concrete evidence that your mom even said any of this to begin with. Because from my perspective, I think your relative is just trying to stir the pot, and I am not totally convinced that the entire truth is being told to you at this moment. moment. Today, I messed up by letting out a burp that broke the sound barrier. This happened a year ago. I'm a 20-year-old female, and my boyfriend and I have been dating for 5 years, ever since we were both 15, and things have always been amazing between us. I don't want to get sappy, but he's really a great person. He has helped me heal from so many things, and whenever we're together, I always have to find the nearest tree or wall to lean against because my stomach hurts from laughing too much. Anyways, all of that just to let you know that I always feel very relaxed and comfortable around him. And while that is generally a great thing, it also ended up being the reason why I had this mess up in the first place. One day, we were out on a little date, and we decided to have lunch at a burger place, which is amazing. I got my favorite chicken sandwich with fries and a Coke, which was so good. I scarfed it down like an animal, not realizing how full I was getting. After my meal, I started feeling a bit weird. Nothing serious, just very, very stuffed, and it felt like I needed to get some air out. Now, I am not very gifted when it comes to farting loudly, or anything like that, but man, I can let out the loudest burps you'll ever hear. I genuinely take pride in that. I usually burp as I please when I'm alone and nobody's nearby, but for the sake of politeness and looking good for my man, I always refrain from burping in front of him. Well, that day I ended up feeling so comfortable and relaxed that I let out the nastiest, most loudest burp that you could ever imagine, and I swear it broke the sound barrier. It lasted a solid 5 seconds. It just totally slipped out. I didn't even realize what I was doing before it was already happening, but boy oh boy did I realize what I had done afterwards. I was mortified. I was so embarrassed I could barely speak. My boyfriend, on the other hand, was peeing himself next to me and told me that other men were probably going to stay away from him because he clearly one-upped all of them with who he has as a girlfriend. In the end, we were both laughing, and I've been happily burping ever since in front of him. He doesn't mind at all, and he actually kind of joins in sometimes. I'm actually the grosser one in the relationship, but I'm proud I can be gross in front of him. That is a hilarious story, and it sounds like you've got a fantastic boyfriend who absolutely is all in. But I have also had one of those burping fits where you break the sound barrier, and you're pretty sure that your burp was so loud that you probably broke some kind of window somewhere around you, just from the sheer force alone. So good for you for having a boyfriend that's super cool with it and knows how to laugh at a silly situation. You guys have a great relationship from the sounds of it, and hopefully it continues and you're able to burp in front of each other with no problem. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Jerk, make sure to subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.